Although Jade Court was unfriendly toward spirit entities from the Mirage Tide's heaven, Su Zimo himself was a living human. He was only passing through. Moreover, he even knew Jade Court Saintess Yi Qingqing. While traveling through the teleportation formation, Su Zimo began familiarizing himself with his own strength. He had just opened the terrestrial blossom, and his overall power had surged once again. This increase was explosive, making him thousands of times stronger than before. At this moment, his entire body was filled with Tao resonance, like a true deity. Faint rumbling sounds even echoed from within him. With both the worldly blossom and the terrestrial blossom, Su Zimo was immersed in this hazy aura, as if he had been reborn. Jade Court lay at the boundary between the Mirage Tide's heaven and the Azure Mystic Heaven. It was located within Kunlun Mountain. In truth, Kunlun Mountain covered an enormous area, spanning vast tracts of heaven and earth and forming a small world of its own. This place was neutral territory. Neither the spirit entities of the Mirage Tide's heaven nor the demonic beasts of the Azure Mystic Heaven would invade it. However, during this period, repeated clashes involving forces from the Mirage Tide's heaven had made the entire territory of Kunlun Mountain feel heavy and tense. Kunlun Mountain did not wish to go to war with the Azure Mystic Heaven. But if forced into it, once war broke out, no one would be able to stop it. Within Jade Court, there were several extremely large teleportation formations. These arrays connected important locations across the Mirage Tide's heaven and the Azure Mystic Heaven. They served as Jade Court's points of contact and exchange with both sides. The teleportation formation Su Zimo used was the highest level formation of the Mirage Tide's heaven. It could directly enter the interior of Jade Court. Its destination was a place known as Broken Wolf Valley. 30,000 years ago, the wolf god of the Azure Mystic Heaven had selfishly invaded Jade Court. That wolf god was immensely powerful. It was said that he personally tore apart several infinite Tao cultivators. For a time, his might was unstoppable. He advanced all the way, sweeping through 108 billion immortal caves of Jade Court. He was finally halted before one of Jade Court's 12 main cities, Firefly Calamity City. It was said that the city lord of Firefly Calamity City, the Nine-Flame God, fought the wolf god for 7 days and 7 nights. In the end, it was only with the aid of several other main cities that the wolf god was finally slain. After the wolf god's death, his corpse corrupted the land. His 2 fangs transformed into 2 towering mountains. Thus, this perilous land was formed. 10,000 years ago, the Queen Mother relocated the source of the teleportation formation to Broken Wolf Valley. As for her purpose, no one knew. Broken Wolf Valley had dedicated guardians. In the beginning, it was filled with powerful cultivators. Visitors from the Mirage Tide's heaven or the Azure Mystic Heaven would be reported immediately. However, over the years, unless something important happened between the 2 heavens, this teleportation formation was rarely used. As time passed, the place gradually became desolate. Within Kunlun Mountain, there were a total of 18 lineages. The declining plant lineage had been assigned to guard this location. Early morning, gentle sunlight from the rising sun enveloped the entire world. Broken Wolf Valley was a fairly expansive valley, but the 2 fang-shaped mountains were extremely conspicuous. Even after tens of thousands of years, the mountains still reeked of bloodshed and were filled with vicious aura. Within the valley, vegetation flourished. Compared to the outside world, the flowers here were more vibrant and the trees more luxuriant. It was as if some special power influenced this place. At the center of the valley stood several massive formations. Under normal circumstances, the formations remained sealed. On this day, a young girl and a small boy arrived before the formations. The girl appeared 17 or 18 years old, graceful and slender. She wore a green robe and looked like a spirit born of flowers and trees. The boy beside her had chubby cheeks and looked 13 or 14 years old. He had short hair and was yawning. This is ridiculous. They actually let 2 kids guard the formation. If something happens, who takes responsibility? The boy muttered. Stop complaining. Grandpa Wong is busy too, the girl said with a smile. She took out a small packet of pastries and handed it to the boy. Here, I secretly got this for you from the peach banquet. Top-grade jade crisps? The boy exclaimed in surprise. The peach banquet is about to begin. I heard these things are guarded especially strictly. How did you get them, sis? This year marked the current Queen Mother's 100-million-year birthday. Jade Court had invited all of Kunlun Mountain, as well as guests from the Mirage Tides Heaven and the Azure Mystic Heaven. They were all invited to attend the peach banquet. As for regions beyond that, Jade Court did not extend invitations. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but that the number of peaches was limited. The immortal peach tree was known as one of the 3 great wondrous trees of the 9 heavens. The first Queen Mother had seized it from beyond the heavens and expended tremendous effort to transplant it to Jade Court. The peach tree sprouted once every 1,000 years, bloomed after another 1,000, bore fruit after another 1,000, and took 2,000 years to ripen. To eat a single immortal peach required 5,000 years. Thus, even for a great power like Jade Court, immortal peaches were extremely precious. This peach banquet likely used up much of Jade Court's accumulated stock. The Queen Mother's 100-million-year birthday was indeed a major event. The siblings chatting were named Wang Ye and Wang Zhe. They were brother and sister. They were also the only remaining young members of the plant lineage. Ever since that great battle long ago, the plant lineage had declined, and its disciples had grown fewer and fewer. Jade Court had even removed this lineage when recruiting new disciples. Hearing her brother's question, Wang Ye smiled and said, "Sister Mei, who manages the imperial kitchen, gave it to me. Aunt Mei really is kind and never looks down on our plant lineage." Wang Zhe nodded. "Call her sister. Be sweet if you want good food," Wang Ye said, rolling her eyes at him. At that moment, a rumbling sound suddenly echoed. Both of them froze. Wang Zhe didn't even dare chew the pastry stuffed in his mouth. His cheeks puffed out as he pointed behind them in panic. "Sis, the formation has activated." Wang Ye quickly turned around. The formation that had lain dormant for 10,000 years had begun operating for the first time. "Hurry, go report this," Wang Ye said. "Report to who?" Grandpa Wang said not to disturb him while he's in seclusion, Wang Zhe asked. "To the other lineages," Wang Ye replied. "I don't want to go. They always mock us. Why don't we just watch first?" Wang Zhe suggested. Wang Ye thought for a moment and finally nodded. Truth be told, she didn't like dealing with the other lineages either. They always acted so superior. At this moment, the teleportation was nearing completion. Under the surge of powerful energy, a gateway opened, and Su Zimo's figure fell out from within. Su Zimo looked around. 2 figures immediately entered his sight. "Are you a spirit from the Mirage Tides Heaven?" Wang Zhe asked, mustering his courage. 2 kids. Su Zimo frowned slightly. This was somewhat different from what he had expected. "No, you're not a spirit. You're a living person." Wang Ye examined Su Zimo and exclaimed, "There are actually living people in the Mirage Tides Heaven." The appearance of living people in the Mirage Tides Heaven was a matter worthy of being called a legend through the ages. After all, the living could not enter the Mirage Tides Heaven, and spirit entities could not easily leave it. As a result, people knew very little about the Mirage Tides Heaven. "Don't shout," Su Zimo waved his hand. He looked at the siblings and said, "I'll ask the questions. You answer. What do you want to ask?" Both siblings were a little afraid of Su Zimo. After all, the Mirage Tides Heaven was famous as a land of the dead. "Is this Jade Court?" Su Zimo asked. They nodded. "This is Broken Wolf Valley of Jade Court. It's specifically used to receive people like you who arrive via teleportation formations." "Why are there only the 2 of you?" Su Zimo asked again. "The dead from the Mirage Tides Heaven can't come out, and beasts rarely come to Jade Court. This place has long been abandoned. If it weren't for our plant lineage, no one would be willing to guard it at all," Wang Ye explained. "I see." Su Zimo nodded. He then asked, "Do you know Yi Qingqing?" "The Saintess." The 2 immediately reacted. "Who are you?" "I'm a friend of your Saintess," Su Zimo smiled. "Could you please help introduce me to her?" Su Zimo was unfamiliar with Jade Court. Having Yi Qingqing's help would make things easier. The Saintess? People like us don't have the qualifications to meet her, Wang Zhe said sourly. It seems there are plenty of internal conflicts within Jade Court as well. Su Zimo shook his head. He had come here mainly for the inheritance of the ancient god. After all, the inheritance of the ice god Shenming was very likely here. And to obtain Xuanming's inheritance, he would have to integrate himself into Jade Court and gain their trust. Such inheritances were secrets. Generally, they were not revealed to anyone but core disciples. Seeing that he couldn't get much information out of the two of them, Su Zimo planned to walk around Jade Court on his own. When they saw Su Zimo about to leave, the siblings hurriedly stopped him. "Why you can't go?" Wang Yi said quickly. "Why?" Su Zimo frowned. "This period is special. It's the Queen Mother's peach banquet. If you cause trouble with your strength, we won't be able to take responsibility." Wang Zhe followed up. "The peach banquet," Su Zimo smiled. "Looks like my timing is perfect." "You'd better not get any bad ideas," Wang Yi said nervously. "This is inside Jade Court. If you do anything wrong, you won't be able to escape." "That's enough. No need to remind me." Su Zimo waved his hand. He then said, "So I'm an outsider. Does Jade Court just leave me unattended?" "It's not that we don't manage outsiders. In the past, elders would handle it. But Grandpa Wang is in seclusion right now," Wang Yi said. "We don't want to go to the other lineages, so this is all we can do. Once Grandpa Wang comes out of seclusion, you can leave naturally." "By the way, what are you doing here in Jade Court?" Wang Zhe asked curiously. "Didn't I just say it? Visiting a friend." "I'm friends with Yi Qingqing," Su Zimo replied. "You're bragging. Our Saintess would never be friends with a man." Wang Zhe clearly didn't believe him. "Didn't you do your homework before lying? All Saintesses of Jade Court throughout history are forbidden from marrying." "Forbidden from marrying doesn't mean forbidden from being friends with someone." Su Zimo thought for a moment and said, "There are always exceptions." Since they wouldn't let him leave, Su Zimo didn't force his way out. After all, he had come to Jade Court with goodwill. And Jade Court seemed less like an enemy and more like a force that could be won over. Unless absolutely necessary, there was no need to let relations turn sour. "When will your Grandpa Wang come out of seclusion?" Su Zimo asked again. "Normally, seclusion lasts 3 days, unless there's a breakthrough," Wang Yi replied. "Just wait a bit. You won't be detained for long." Su Zimo thought about it and decided to use this time to ask about Jade Court. Besides, these two kids looked rather simple-minded and easy to talk to. As for Yi Qingqing, there was no rush to meet her. He didn't know how important the ancient god's inheritance was to Jade Court. If there was room for negotiation, everything would be easy. If not, then he would have no choice but to fall out with them. Over the next few days, Su Zimo built a good relationship with the two siblings. Jade Court had a total of 18 lineages. To have a lineage in Jade Court, it had to have produced a peerless cultivator and made contributions to Jade Court. The plant lineage had once been glorious. The first patriarch back then was known as the All Things True Immortal. The name might not have sounded imposing, but it was said that he could communicate with all plants in the world. From divine trees and immortal medicines above, to ordinary flowers and grass below, all answered his call. Unfortunately, the lineage had declined. Jade Court had 12 cities. The 12 most prosperous lineages among the 18 guarded those 12 cities. The remaining 6 lineages had already fallen into decline. The plant lineage in particular was on the verge of extinction. Su Zimo also learned about the peach banquet. He smiled. "It seems Jade Court will be lively for a while, but a great battle probably isn't far off either." "What great battle?" Wang Yi asked. "With the beasts," Wang Zhe said doubtfully. "That shouldn't be possible. Although the beasts of the Azure Mystic Heaven often clash with us, there's never been a real war." "I'm just guessing," Su Zimo smiled. "I don't know the truth either, so I can't judge for sure." He felt that everything was a little too coincidental. The Lord of Death had told him that the conflict between Jade Court and the Azure Mystic Heaven had been intensifying recently. At a time like this, Shouldn't the Queen Mother be anxiously thinking of countermeasures? Why would she still have the mood to organize a peach banquet? Su Zimo guessed that the Queen Mother wanted to use the peach banquet to draw in allies. From that alone, it was clear that war was not far away. Jade Court was likely getting anxious as well. And that wasn't all. There were many things Su Zimo couldn't yet make sense of. For example, why did the beast race of the Azure Mystic Heaven want to attack Kunlun Mountain? As the three chatted, they gradually became familiar with one another. Wang Ye and Wang Zhe were inexperienced in the world and easily trusted others. Before long, they had come to treat Su Zimo as a good friend. Where is Elder Wang? One day, a sharp voice rang out at the entrance of Broken Wolf Valley. Hearing this voice, Wang Ye's expression changed slightly. It's someone from the Casting Crane lineage. Something's probably happened again, Wang Zhe said unwillingly as he stood up and walked toward the valley entrance. Su Zimo followed along to take a look. Inside the valley stood a young man dressed in luxurious robes. His temperament was cold and aloof, his gaze sharp and piercing. When he saw Wang Ye and Wang Zhe, his expression darkened. He barked, "Why are you so slow, so sluggish? Is this how your plant lineage conducts itself?" "So it's senior brother Tian," Wang Ye said. "What brings you to our plant lineage?" It was obvious that neither of them had a good impression of the young man. "This time, your plant lineage does not need to participate in the peach banquet," Tian Xingzi said flatly. As soon as those words were spoken, the expressions of Wang Ye and her brother changed drastically. "What do you mean?" Wang Zhe shouted angrily. "Our plant lineage is also one of the 18 lineages. On what grounds are we not allowed to participate?" "That's right. And is this something you can decide?" Wang Ye retorted. "I can't make this decision myself, but it was ordered by the Grand Elder of our Casting Crane lineage. Do you dare disobey?" Tian Xingzi sneered. From the bottom of his heart, he looked down on the plant lineage. There were only a handful of them left. In his eyes, they might as well be abolished altogether. He believed he was far from the only one in the sect who thought this way. To put it bluntly, they were occupying resources without producing results. As long as the plant lineage still existed, Jade Court would have to allocate resources to them to some extent. For example, with this peach banquet, the plant lineage would be entitled to one quota. They could even receive an immortal peach. One had to know that immortal peaches were extremely limited in number. As one of the 3 great wondrous trees of the 9 heavens, their effects were astonishing. Reviving the dead or regenerating bones was only the most basic function. An immortal peach could directly aid enlightenment. One had to know that the further one progressed in cultivation, the harder enlightenment became. Approaching the great Tao and reaching its core essence grew increasingly difficult. With such effects, immortal peaches were something countless people desperately sought after. Because the plant lineage had declined, their quota naturally became something others coveted. The Casting Crane lineage held a transcendent position within Jade Court. This was because they were the law enforcement lineage. Large and small matters within Jade Court were basically supervised and handled by them. If disciples committed offenses, it was also they who dealt with it. As a result, the authority of the Grand Elder of the Casting Crane lineage was enormous. With Tian Xingzi saying this, Wang Ye and Wang Zhe were furious but did not dare to speak out. Wang Ye's eyes reddened as she said, "I'll go report this to the Queen Mother." "Go ahead. If you can even see her," Tian Xingzi laughed. "The Queen Mother is busy preparing for the peach banquet. Do you really think she has time to see you?" Hearing this, the siblings both fell silent. Under normal circumstances, it was already as hard as ascending to the heavens for them to see the Queen Mother, let alone during such a special time. Clearly, the Casting Crane lineage had seen through this and was acting without fear. "You're going too far," Wang Zhe said with reddened eyes. "The Queen Mother doesn't intervene because things haven't blown up yet. If it really becomes a big issue with guests everywhere, Jade Court still cares about its reputation." At that moment, a voice sounded from behind them. Everyone turned around to see Su Zimo walking over calmly. "Who are you?" I don't remember the plant lineage having a new disciple, Tian Xingzi asked, frowning at Su Zimo. Me? I'm the one who's going to take your life, Su Zimo said with a smile. He reached out and grabbed toward Tian Xingzi. Power surged violently in his palm. Tian Xingzi's face changed drastically. He tried to resist, but it was completely futile. Like a helpless chick, he was grabbed by the back of the neck, his fate firmly in Su Zimo's hands. Don't move, Su Zimo said with a smile. If I slip and snap your neck by accident, that would be awkward. He was smiling, but Tian Xingzi felt a bone-chilling cold rise from the soles of his feet straight to his heart. He hurriedly said, Don't get excited. Don't get excited. We can talk this out. Taoist Su, spare his life. Wang Ye also tried to persuade him. If you kill him, the casting crane lineage will retaliate. One life for one life, it's not worth it. Is his life even worthy of being exchanged for mine? Su Zimo sneered. He then looked at the siblings. Are you really willing to be bullied like this forever? The two exchanged glances, then shook their heads together. When endurance reaches its limit, there's no need to endure anymore, Su Zimo said as he threw Tian Xingzi to the ground in front of them. If you want to resist, I'll back you up. Take it all the way to the Queen Mother. You'll be in the right. If you don't want to, then let him go and pretend I never did anything. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the siblings fell silent. They looked at Tian Xingzi. Although Tian Xingzi was panicking, he still forced himself to speak harshly. Think carefully. Plotting against a fellow disciple within Jade Court. No one will be able to save you. A prisoner still dares to be this arrogant? Sister, I can't take it anymore. Wang Zhe gritted his teeth. If I don't vent this anger, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. As he spoke, he rushed forward and began punching Tian Xingzi. As he hit him, he shouted, Even if I can't kill you, beating you up to vent my anger is good enough. After a flurry of punches and kicks, Wang Zhe finally felt satisfied. Looking at Tian Xingzi's vicious glare, he spat on the ground and directly undid his belt. What are you doing? Tian Xingzi seemed to realize something and was utterly terrified. I'm giving you something to drink, Wang Zhe said with a wicked grin. As the saying goes, a torrent fell straight down. In the end, Tian Xingzi left in humiliation, not even daring to utter a single threat. Wang Zhe felt relieved, but Wang Ye looked deeply worried. She turned to Su Zimo and said, You should leave. Leave before the casting crane lineage takes action, or it'll be too late. What's there to be afraid of? Su Zimo shook his head. He had already thought everything through before making his move. He wanted to make things big. Otherwise, staying in Broken Wolf Valley would be a complete waste of time. The outer Jade Court sacred gathering was lively and bustling, while this place was deathly quiet. By doing this, he could draw Jade Court's attention and also earn the goodwill of the siblings. You're really not afraid? Wang Zhe asked. Could it be that you really know our Jade Court Saintess? But the casting crane lineage is extremely powerful. Even the Saintess might not dare offend them. Seeing the two speculating, Su Zimo shook his head and laughed. Where's your grandpa Wang? Why hasn't he come out of seclusion yet? He asked. Grandpa Wang usually comes out after 3 days. This time he might be breaking through. Wang Ye thought for a moment and replied, Jade Court is so lively outside. Don't you want to go out and see? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Yes. Wang Zhe nodded. But we have to guard the formation. This place hasn't seen anyone for years, Su Zimo said. Going out for half a day won't cause any trouble. Hearing this, the siblings were tempted. Just half a day? Yes, half a day. Su Zimo nodded. All right then, but you're not allowed to run around. Jade Court's rules are very strict. Wang Ye reminded him uneasily. Su Zimo waited briefly at the entrance of Broken Wolf Valley while the siblings packed up a little. Then the three of them left Broken Wolf Valley together. Walking out of the valley led them to Jade Court's command platform. This command platform was no ordinary place. Back then, All Things True Immortal had marshaled troops here to attack Kunlun Mountain. enabling Jade Court to establish itself in this land with great merit. All Things True Immortal was the original founder of the plant lineage. Unfortunately, after All Things True Immortal's death, the plant lineage gradually declined. The massive command platform covered several million square meters. It was constructed entirely of copper and iron. At the front lay an open space, while at the very center stood a statue of All Things True Immortal. The statue was also bronze in color, though it was covered in patches of rust, with weeds growing thickly around it. The statue was towering and solemn, its features dignified. If one looked closely, they would notice that the surrounding weeds were not encroaching upon the statue, but rather clustering around it as if in reverence. Seeing the statue, both Wang Ye and Wang Zhe wore expressions of deep respect. If All Things True Immortal were still alive, how wonderful that would be, Wang Zhe said with a sigh. Is there really such a thing as true immortality in this world? I don't know, but I have heard some rumors, Wang Ye replied. Our immortal peach tree is one of the 3 great wondrous trees. It's said that alongside the immortal peach tree, there exists a longevity tree. Its longevity fruit can extend one's lifespan. A single fruit grants 10,000 years. I know about that, Wang Zhe nodded. And the longevity fruit is no ordinary thing. Most treasures that extend lifespan cause resistance after being consumed once. The second time, they're almost useless. But the longevity fruit isn't affected by this. It can break that limitation and is something many people desperately seek. In a sense, if one had enough longevity fruits, they could keep living indefinitely. Wang Ye smiled and nodded, then said, That may be true, but it's impossible. The longevity tree bears fruit even less frequently than our immortal peach tree, and the cycle is even longer. It grants longevity, not true immortality. The command platform held special meaning for the plant lineage. Even though All Things True Immortal was no longer around, the plant lineage still paid tribute at the command platform every year. Passing the command platform, they arrived at Jade Court's Jade Maiden Waterfall. First of all, Jade Court was dominated by female disciples. 90% of the people here were women. Although male disciples could be recruited, there were generally only 2 ways this happened. Either the man was extraordinarily talented, or he was a descendant of a Jade Court disciple. Otherwise, Jade Court did not accept men. Setting aside those exceptionally gifted individuals, since such talents would be recruited anywhere, Jade Court's rules were neither lax nor overly lenient. Jade Court imposed certain restrictions on marriage for its female disciples. First and foremost, a saintess could never marry. This was because a saintess was cultivated according to the standards of the next Queen Mother. As for ordinary female disciples, although they could marry, they had to pass Jade Court's examination. These strict conditions led to fewer and fewer male disciples in Jade Court. Someone like Wang Zhe, whose mother was a Jade Court disciple, was considered a descendant. However, once he turned 18, he would still have to pass Jade Court's assessment. If he passed, he could stay. If not, he would have to leave Jade Court. The Jade Maiden Waterfall before them was one of Jade Court's most famous sights. This was because it was the place where Jade Court's women bathed. The river flowing from the waterfall was very long, and it was no ordinary water. It contained the power of stars and the moon. Bathing in this water could make one's skin fairer and more youthful. There were barriers set up around the waterfall, and the guarding here was extremely strict. As they reached the entrance, a group of women who had just finished bathing emerged. They wore white gauze garments, their long hair damp and draped over their backs, with different fragrances lingering around them. That's Saintess Qing, Wang Ye said. How many saintesses does Jade Court have? Su Zimo asked curiously. There is only one supreme saintess, Yi Qingqing. But among the 18 lineages, each may cultivate its own saintess. The title of saintess is earned through competition, Wang Ye explained. This Saintess Qing is from one of the 18 lineages, the heavenly Luan lineage. If that's the case, then wouldn't you be the saintess of your plant lineage? Su Zimo teased with a smile. Wang Ye blushed and shook her head. The plant lineage has already declined. How could we speak of a saintess? Originally, Wang Ye and the others had no intention of greeting them. Unexpectedly, Saintess Qing and her group walked over on their own. Junior Sister Wang, long time no see, Saintess Qing greeted with a smile. Greetings, Saintess Qing, Wang Ye replied. Just call me Senior Sister. You've been staying in Broken Wolf Valley. I haven't seen you in a long time either, Saintess Qing said with a smile. How has it been at the formation lately? Everything stable? What could be unstable about the formation? A woman beside her said mockingly. Broken Wolf Valley has been unchanged for 10,000 years. No visitors have come for ages. It's the easiest assignment. We're envious, if anything. Wang Ye looked at the woman who spoke. She was also a disciple of the heavenly Luan lineage, named Wang Ling. If Senior Sister Wang likes it so much, you're welcome to come to Broken Wolf Valley, Wang Ye said calmly. She didn't get along with the other woman. They had fallen out over certain matters in the past. Wang Ling shot back without backing down. Going to Broken Wolf Valley is fine. Then will you give me your quota for the peach banquet? Each of Jade Court's 18 lineages had a quota for the peach banquet. Having a quota meant receiving an immortal peach, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for many. Jade Court had countless disciples, and competition was extremely fierce. Enough, all of you stop, Saintess Qing interjected. Recently, our conflicts with the Azure Mystic Heaven have been frequent. Be careful that they don't slip in through the formations. After speaking, Saintess Qing turned her gaze toward Su Zimo. She sized him up briefly, then smiled. This junior brother looks rather unfamiliar. I'm not a disciple of Jade Court. I'm here to attend the peach banquet, Su Zimo replied. Ridiculous. If you're attending the peach banquet, you should not be here. What are you doing at our Jade Maiden waterfall? Wang Ling shouted. Wang Ye and her brother are my friends. Is it not allowed for me to visit them? Su Zimo countered. Wang Ye and her brother have never left Jade Court. How could they have friends from outside? Wang Ling said harshly. You say you're here for the peach banquet. Those invited are either born of sacred sex or are powerful figures who dominate a region. Where are you from? What is your background? What are Jade Court disciples now checking my identity? You don't seem qualified for that. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes at Wang Ling. He had no intention of making enemies with Jade Court, but if someone wanted to court death, he didn't mind granting it. Sir, you misunderstand. Wang Ling is immature. I'll apologize on her behalf, Saintess Qing quickly said. Since you've said so, we will believe you. I hope we'll have a chance to converse at the peach banquet. After speaking, Saintess Qing gave Su Zimo an apologetic smile and led Wang Ling and the others away. You should be careful of her, Wang Ye said, watching Saintess Qing's retreating figure. She warned Su Zimo, I think she's taken an interest in you. The red Luan star is stirring. She is the saintess of the heavenly Luan lineage. Her origins and cultivation are both very mysterious. How mysterious? Su Zimo asked with interest. The heavenly Luan is one of the 16 beast races of the Azure Mystic Heaven, Wang Ye said solemnly. And the founder of the heavenly Luan lineage came from the beast race. Speaking of the origins of the heavenly Luan lineage, the story is indeed rather complicated. In a very distant and ancient era of Jade Court, there was once a woman who fell in love with a member of the beast race. According to Jade Court's rules, this man had to pass Jade Court's trials. Moreover, the people of Jade Court all disliked him because he was from the beast race. Yet the woman insisted on staying with him. The beast man did not disappoint. With considerable strength, he successfully passed the trials. When he first stayed in Jade Court, he kept a low profile, neither flaunting himself nor drawing attention. Almost no one noticed him, until a great battle broke out. At that time, the barbarian tribes from the northern part of the Azure Mystic Heaven launched an assault, slaughtering Jade Court's women. Here, it is necessary to briefly explain the barbarian tribes. Although the Azure Mystic Heaven was the territory of the beast race, the barbarian tribes occupied a vast region in the south of the Azure Mystic Heaven. They were considered the second major power of the Azure Mystic Heaven. The barbarians were a group of savage people who coveted the beauty of Jade Court's women. Eventually, Jade Court could no longer tolerate it, and a great war erupted between Jade Court and the barbarian tribes. It was in that battle that the Beast Man finally made his move. He charged alone into the barbarian army, killing his way in and out 7 times over. In the end, he beheaded the barbarian chieftain and brought the head back to Jade Court. That battle completely destroyed the barbarian tribes, and the Beast Man's name resounded throughout all of Jade Court. He was Heavenly Luan Dao Lord. He founded his own lineage. Though born of the beast race, his heart belonged to Jade Court. "I'm not familiar with that Saintess Qing," Wang Ye said. "She wouldn't greet me for no reason. In my view, she has her eye on you. She cultivates the Red Luan art. Her perception is even stronger than that of our plant lineage. She must have sensed that you're extraordinary, which is why she wanted to test you." "It doesn't matter," Su Zimo smiled. "Haven't you heard the saying? If soldiers come, block them. If water comes, dam it. I actually want to see how capable your Jade Court really is. Let's go. Let's take a look at where the Peach Banquet is being held." "The Peach Banquet is at Goosefoot Tower. We can only watch from the outside," Wang Ye said. Meanwhile, on the other side, after Saintess Qing led her group away, Wang Ling said unhappily, "Saintess, why bother giving them face? What is there to fear about the plant lineage?" "Shut up," Saintess Qing interrupted her without hesitation. She said calmly, "Go investigate. Find out where that young man came from. I have a bad feeling about him." "Saintess, aren't you overthinking it? What kind of background could someone have if he's mixed up with the plant lineage?" Wang Ling said disdainfully. "My Red Luan warning is never groundless. That young man definitely has a problem," Saintess Qing said flatly. "Don't make me repeat myself a second time." The surrounding women quickly withdrew. They all knew their Saintess's temperament. Even Wang Ling did not dare to provoke her further. The Peach Banquet was held at Goosefoot Tower. Moving forward from the Jade Maiden waterfall brought one into the heart of Jade Court. At this moment, Su Zimo stood atop a high slope. He looked around, taking in the entire expanse of Jade Court. Millions of immortal islands floated in the sky. Immortal springs cascaded down from towering divine trees, nourishing heaven and earth as their branches flourished. There were fairy maidens absorbing moonlight, sword techniques soaring like flying immortals. There were immortals riding treasured gourds, swallowing half the sun in a single gulp. Jade Court stretched endlessly beyond sight, yet wherever one looked, there were extraordinary celestial wonders. This was Jade Court. This was Kunlun Mountain, like a realm of immortals. Although Wang Ye and her brother rarely left Broken Wolf Valley, they were still very familiar with Jade Court. They led Su Zimo to Goosefoot Tower. Goosefoot Tower was located atop the Heavenly Pool. The Heavenly Pool was no ordinary body of water. It was the only water domain within Jade Court and the source of the Jade Maiden waterfall. The Heavenly Pool encircled Jade Court. Goosefoot Tower itself was not fixed in place. It was like a drifting cruise vessel, moving along the Heavenly Pool. Those within Goosefoot Tower could constantly view different scenery of Jade Court. Holding the Peach Banquet, there was already the grandest possible arrangement. Under Wang Ye's guidance, Su Zimo arrived at the shore of the Heavenly Pool. He looked up and could only see a massive, indistinct island shrouded in immortal mist. "When can we go up there?" Su Zimo asked. "I'm afraid you won't live long enough to set foot on the island." A voice suddenly rang out nearby before Wang Ye could answer. Su Zimo turned his head. A group of people dressed in green robes embroidered with crane patterns were striding toward them. The aura emanating from this group was powerful, faintly linked together, resembling the posture of a green crane, aloof and sharp-eyed. They were clearly many individuals, yet gave the impression of being a single entity. Standing beside them was Tian Xingzi, glaring at Su Zimo with deep resentment. "This is really troublesome. I should have killed you earlier," Su Zimo said with a shake of his head, as if regretting his earlier mercy. "It's the casting crane lineage," Wang Ye said nervously, tugging lightly at Su Zimo's sleeve in a low voice. "And they're the casting crane guards. Be careful. It's just a group of ants." What's the point? Su Zimo shook his head. He looked at Tian Xingzi and asked, call over your so-called Grand Elder. These people aren't enough for me to fight. Arrogant, Tian Xingzi snorted coldly. He turned to the group he had brought and said solemnly, brothers, this thief is rampant. Do not kill him outright. Capture him first, then interrogate him slowly. The group nodded slightly. They did not speak, but white light surged from their bodies. The white radiance gathered together. A crane's cry echoed across heaven and earth. The casting crane lineage took the crane as its foundation. All things in the world could be forged. The individuals before them were not particularly strong on their own, but together they were extraordinary. This was because they cultivated the golden crane unity. The casting crane lineage had many cultivation paths. The most common focused on metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. To cultivate the casting crane path, besides aptitude, one also needed special physiques. For example, the people before them had physiques more or less related to the metal element. As spiritual energy surged skyward, their bodies suddenly went still, collapsing one by one onto the ground. In the sky above, a golden immortal crane condensed into form. The crane's eyes locked onto Su Zimo, filled with ferocity. With a piercing cry, it tore through the silent void, its golden claws ripping toward Su Zimo. Wang Ye and her brother both grew tense. Have you ever eaten crane meat? Su Zimo asked with a smile. What? The two were stunned. They hadn't expected Su Zimo to be in the mood for jokes at such a moment. As the golden forged crane closed in, Su Zimo simply raised his hand and slapped it. A shrill scream rang out. The golden crane crashed to the ground, even smashing out a large crater. Everyone around was dumbfounded. Su Zimo ignored the crane and instead turned his gaze to Tian Xingzi. He shook his head and smiled. Isn't it better to stay alive? Why yes, Tian Xingzi stammered. It's a pity I already gave you a chance, and you didn't cherish it? Su Zimo said as he grabbed Tian Xingzi and violently slammed him to the side. The force of the throw was tremendous. With a loud boom, blood splattered across the ground. Tian Xingzi lay there in a pool of blood, his flesh mangled and indistinct. Wang Ye and her brother were struck dumb. You killed him. It's over. You've caused huge trouble now, Wang Ye said anxiously. Earlier, humiliating Tian Xingzi could still be considered a conflict between disciples. But openly killing someone within Jade Court was an entirely different matter. Dragging down our plant lineage would be a small issue. After all, we only have 2 or 3 people left. It doesn't really matter, Wang Ye continued. The key point is that Jade Court won't let you off. It's fine, Su Zimo replied calmly, shaking his head. How can it be fine? Wang Ye grabbed his wrist and said urgently. You need to leave Jade Court immediately. If you wait any longer, it'll be too late. Leave before anyone discovers this. Relax. I came to Jade Court on the orders of the Lord of Death. Jade Court won't dare act lightly against me, Su Zimo said after some thought, using this reason to reassure them. After all, Jade Court was already in conflict with the Azure Mystic Heaven, and a major battle could break out at any time. At a moment like this, Jade Court could not afford to also antagonize the Mirage Tides Heaven. Offending 2 domains in succession would be more than even Jade Court could withstand. Hearing this, the siblings were still uneasy. You're not lying to us? They asked. Why would I lie to you? Su Zimo said, shaking his head with a smile. Find a way to let me board Goosefoot Tower and take a look? Our plant lineage has a quota. On the day of the Peach Banquet, I can bring you in, Wang Ye said. Then does Jade Court have any special places worth visiting? Su Zimo asked with a smile. We're idle anyway. Participating in the Peach Banquet was just a pretense. His real goal was the inheritance of the ice god Xianming. Wandering around with the 2 of them as local guides would save him a lot of trouble. Interesting places. Wang Zhe lowered his head in thought. Suddenly, he looked up and said with a grin, Do you want to go to the Immortal Peach Garden? The Immortal Peach Garden? Su Zimo paused. Don't tell me it's directly related to the Immortal Peach Tree. He knew very well what the immortal peach tree meant to Jade Court. Even core disciples had no right to approach it, let alone Wang Ye and her brother. After all, it was one of the 3 great wondrous trees, the only one of its kind under heaven. Wang Zhe laughed. It's related to the immortal peach tree, but you could also say it isn't. When the founding ancestor transplanted the immortal peach tree to Jade Court, its effects made everyone envious. From very ancient times, Jade Court has been thinking of ways to graft the immortal peach tree. They wanted other trees to become immortal peach trees as well. Think about it. If Jade Court could have hundreds, even thousands of immortal peach trees, why would they worry about cultivating powerful cultivators? So it still failed? Su Zimo asked. Half success, half failure. Wang Ye added. Grafting the immortal peach tree isn't that easy. We managed to develop new immortal peach trees, but whether in effectiveness or lifespan, they're far inferior to the true immortal peach tree. As these defective immortal peach trees increased in number, Jade Court eventually planted them all together in a special garden. Even defective immortal peaches aren't simple, Wang Zhe explained. How about I take you to the immortal peach garden? If you're lucky, you might even get some peaches. Su Zimo nodded. As one of the 3 great wondrous trees, the immortal peach tree undoubtedly possessed spiritual intelligence. It had thinking ability comparable to that of humans. Trying to create more immortal peach trees meant the biggest obstacle was intelligence itself, which was nearly impossible to replicate. Because creation itself was something meant for the heavens. This was something the heavens would not tolerate. Jade Court was fortunate to have failed. If they had succeeded, disaster would likely have followed. Creating half-finished immortal peach trees was, for Jade Court, actually a blessing in disguise. The immortal peach garden was open to Jade Court disciples. As long as you had the ability to pick an immortal peach, Jade Court would not interfere. But the peaches in the garden were not easy to pick. Aside from exceptionally gifted individuals, many disciples had suffered losses here. Because of the failure in spiritual intelligence, these half-finished immortal peach trees were themselves incomplete. Their consciousness was flawed. This made the trees irritable. Some even knew nothing but slaughter. All kinds of strange behavior gave the immortal peach garden an eerie atmosphere. Even so, countless disciples still came here every day. After all, even a defective immortal peach possessed effects that made people flock to it. Led by Wang Ye, the group arrived at the immortal peach garden. From the outside, the garden was still shrouded in swirling immortal mist. For a sacred land like Jade Court, immortal mist seemed to be a constant presence. Protective formations surrounded the immortal peach garden. These weren't to protect the garden, but to prevent the immortal peach trees from escaping and causing harm to Jade Court. Through the mist, one could see vague, swaying shadows within the garden. It looked as though thousands of troops were surging back and forth. Demonic energy surged in Su Zimo's eyes as he pierced through everything to see the source. Oh, even the plant lineage is willing to come out now. A teasing voice sounded from the side. Su Zimo turned his head and saw a man in a crimson robe walking over. 18 lineages, the Fire Crow lineage, Wang Ye explained quietly. The founder of the Fire Crow lineage was called the Golden Crow Dao Lord. He was once a Fire Crow. Later, through a stroke of fortune, the bloodline within him awakened and returned to its origin, allowing him to evolve into a Golden Crow. After he became powerful, the Queen Mother invited him to establish a lineage within Jade Court. The Golden Crow Dao Lord was very humble. He named the lineage the Fire Crow lineage rather than the Golden Crow lineage. He knew well how arduous and perilous the path from Fire Crow to Golden Crow was. He hoped every Fire Crow would cultivate step by step, firmly grounded. As an aside, the Golden Crow was one of the 16 beast races of the Azure Mystic Heaven. The Fire Crow lineage was neither beast race nor human race. More precisely, they were half beast, half human. They looked very much like humans, but had a pair of red wings on their backs. There was also a unique Fire Crow mark on their foreheads. Even before approaching, one could already feel the heat surging from their bodies. May I ask how this senior brother is addressed? Wang Ye asked politely. Although they were all disciples of Jade Court, the 18 lineages were not closely acquainted. Each lineage had thousands of disciples. It was impossible to know everyone. My name is Zhao Jinwu. My father hopes I can achieve the Golden Crow bloodline, the young man said with a smile. Zhao Jinwu? Could it be the one who recently rose into the top 10 elites? Wang Ye asked in surprise. Forget about the so-called top 10 elites. I'm just an ordinary disciple. There's nothing remarkable about it. Zhao Jinwu shook his head and replied, the top 10 elites represent the 10 most outstanding disciples of Jade Court. That level is fought out from all 18 lineages. The prestige behind it is substantial, Wang Ye said seriously. Zhao Jinwu had been the most talked about figure recently. Before this, his reputation had been unremarkable. But not long ago, his strength suddenly advanced by leaps and bounds. He even defeated one of the top 10 elites and took their place, instantly rising to prominence. As a result, he had attracted the attention of all of Jade Court. Although Wang Ye had heard of Zhao Jinwu before, this was her first time meeting him. Since Jade Court was founded, countless people have held the title of top 10 elite. It doesn't mean much, Zhao Jinwu said with a smile. In fact, I'm very curious about the plant lineage. I've heard that your cultivation methods are very special. You communicate with plants and can generate the spirit of heaven and earth. It's just a minor path, Wang Ye smiled. The path of plants is a proper great Tao. If I have time in the future, may I visit Broken Wolf Valley to exchange insights? Zhao Jinwu asked with a smile. Wang Ye narrowed her eyes slightly. Broken Wolf Valley welcomes senior brother Zhao at any time, she replied. Zhao Jinwu nodded in satisfaction and then walked into the Immortal Peach Garden. Wang Ye's expression grew solemn. Wang Zhe said quietly beside her, Sister, that guy definitely doesn't have good intentions. Enough! Wang Ye interrupted him. She turned to Su Zimo and said, Let's go in. Su Zimo nodded. He had no intention of meddling in Jade Court's internal affairs. From Wang Ye's reaction, it was clear she was already on guard. They entered the Immortal Peach Garden without encountering any obstruction. The moment they stepped inside, the difference was immediately apparent. As far as the eye could see, hundreds of immortal peach trees towered into the sky. But that wasn't the most important part. Each immortal peach tree was alive. Some trees had branches spreading wildly, like a chaotic dance of demons, making it impossible to approach. Others retracted their branches, curling themselves inward defensively. Some of the stronger immortal peach trees were even running rampant through the garden, moving almost like humanoid beings. Well, this place is lively, Su Zimo laughed. That's just how the Immortal Peach Garden is, Wang Ye replied. See those immortal peaches? Su Zimo nodded. Each immortal peach tree bore peaches of different colors. Some were red like fresh blood, others purple like lightning. Some even had human faces growing on them. The mutation of the immortal peach trees was causing them to evolve in strange ways. These are all outer layer immortal peach trees. If you want to pick peaches, you have to rely on your own ability. One careless mistake can cost your life, Wang Ye said. Don't underestimate them. Quite a few disciples have died beneath these trees. Interesting. I'll give it a try, Su Zimo said. He scanned the area and raised his hand toward a nearby immortal peach tree. This particular tree embodied the nature of a sword. Sword intent radiated sharply from it, growing more intense the closer one approached. Sensing Su Zimo's movement, a heaven-shaking sword intent slashed out from the tree. Su Zimo clenched his hand, crushing the sword intent into nothing within his palm. His hand continued forward. The immortal peach tree felt immense pressure, as if the surrounding world had been sealed off. The tree let out a silent roar. Its power erupted violently. Every branch transformed into a streak of terrifying sword intent. Hundreds of sword intents annihilated the surrounding void as they slashed toward Su Zimo. A mere minor path, and you dare defy me, Su Zimo smiled. The shadow tyrant blade behind him hummed. A blade cry rang out, and in an instant, countless sword intents were severed. The immortal peach tree was suppressed completely, unable to resist. The peaches on it could now be picked at will. Su Zimo took one bite of an immortal peach. It instantly dissolved into rich sword intent in his mouth. For an ordinary sword cultivator, this would have been an immense benefit. Unfortunately, his realm was far too high. This level of immortal peach tree was useless to him. "You try some," Su Zimo said casually, tossing a few peaches to Wang Ye and Wang Zhe. "Be careful. These are treasures," the siblings said as they carefully caught the peaches. Although they were Jade Court disciples, they clearly hadn't eaten immortal peaches often. After all, their strength was limited. Su Zimo could tell they hadn't even reached the Grand Emperor realm. Such cultivation would only be considered average even on the primordial heartlands. The plant lineage cultivated slowly by nature, and their talents were merely ordinary. As they ate the peaches, the two were visibly delighted. "Brother Su, you're amazing." Su Zimo shook his head with a smile. "Take as many of these peaches as you want. They're of no use to me." "Then I'll take you deeper inside," Wang Ye said quickly. "There's an Earth Heart Mother Thunder immortal peach tree inside. It's the strongest immortal peach tree in the garden. And it was once regarded by the elders as the tree most likely to succeed." "Then let's go take a look," Su Zimo nodded. On the way inward, Su Zimo asked casually, "How much do you two know about Jade Court?" "What would Brother Su like to know?" Wang Ye asked. "We've grown up in Jade Court. We can't say we know everything, but we know most things." "I'm interested in Jade Court's origins," Su Zimo said with a smile. "I like researching history." The origins of Jade Court, Wang Ye thought for a moment. There are books in Jade Court that specifically describe this. It said that the identity of the first Queen Mother is a mystery. She came from the starry skies beyond the 9 heavens and founded Jade Court on Kunlun Mountain. "I've heard that the first Queen Mother was an ancient god," Su Zimo said with a smile. "You mean Goddess Xianming?" Wang Ye smiled. "Our Jade Court even has a statue of the Goddess Xianming." "Goddess Xianming." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't ask too many detailed questions, wary of arousing suspicion. But the Goddess Xianming was most likely the ice god Xianming he was searching for. "Tell me more about the Goddess Xianming," Su Zimo said. "The Goddess Xianming is the most legendary figure in Jade Court. No one knows her origins. But it's said that the Goddess Xianming is still alive," Wang Ye said softly. Su Zimo froze for a moment. Alive? That was an ancient god. Who knew how long it had been since her era? If she were truly still alive, that would be astonishing, a genuine relic of antiquity. "It's just hearsay," Wang Ye explained. "It's said that whenever Jade Court faces a life-and-death crisis, the goddess Xianming appears. She turns the tide. According to records, Jade Court has faced 2 such catastrophic crises, both on the brink of destruction. In the end, both were resolved by the goddess Xianming." "Is there really not a single clue about the origin of the goddess of Xianming? Or does your Jade Court have some forbidden grounds or something?" Su Zimo asked curiously. Wang Ye shook her head and smiled. "Jade Court has plenty of forbidden areas. The place where the peach trees grow is a forbidden land. The immortal realm is also a forbidden area. Even most places related to the Queen Mother are forbidden. If you want to find the goddess of Xianming, don't even think about it. You said before that the goddess of Xianming only appears when Jade Court faces a life-and-death crisis, right?" Su Zimo asked to confirm. "That's what the records say." Wang Ye nodded. Su Zimo said nothing more. Inside, however, he began to pray that the demon race of the Azure Mystic Heaven would put up a decent fight. If they could draw out that so-called goddess of Xianming, he would know whether she was an ancient god or not. He wasn't in a hurry. Things had to be done step by step. At the very least, he had gathered some information now, and that was progress. He estimated that the war between the Azure Mystic Heaven and Jade Court was not far off. Otherwise, the Queen Mother would not be in such a hurry to hold the peach banquet to seek reinforcements. On the road deeper into the peach orchard, they began encountering more and more Jade Court disciples. Su Zimo would casually make a move, plucking some peaches along the way for Wang Ye and her brother. These were the only two people he was familiar with in Jade Court. At this moment, Su Zimo waved his hand, directly enveloping 5 nearby peach trees within his palm. The peach trees that had been struggling instantly became unable to move, allowing Wang Ye and Wang Zhe to happily pick peaches. Just then, a thunderous sound came from the northern side of the peach orchard. The sound moved extremely fast. It had been far away at first, but within a few breaths, it had already entered their field of vision. The 3 of them looked up and saw, beneath rolling dust, a bizarrely shaped peach tree actually running on legs, barefoot and sprinting wildly. Behind the tree, a large group of people chased through the air. A group of people and a single tree chased one another like this. The scene was extremely strange, and the strangest part was that the peach tree was running while cursing at the same time. These idiots are so fun. Come chase me. Hit me if you can. You can't catch me. Are you mad? A tree behaving like this was truly eye-opening. Brother Su, hurry and catch it. That's the space-time peach tree, Wang Ye said urgently. That's right. It's the strangest tree in the entire peach orchard. Wang Zhe followed up loudly. It's said that it only bears a single peach. If you eat it, you can gain an enormous amount of space-time power, far beyond what other peach trees can offer. It was clear that both of them cared a great deal about this peach tree. Su Zimo nodded. The direction the peach tree was charging toward happened to be his. He waved his hand again. Boundless suppressive force surged out, and amid a roaring sound, the power locked down this entire area of space. Even the void itself was sealed. Seeing this, the peach tree was not panicked at all. Instead, it burst into laughter. Another idiot trying to catch me. It laughed loudly as an invisible force suddenly erupted from its body. In an instant, it passed straight through the sealed space Su Zimo had created and ran straight out. Space-time laws. Su Zimo was surprised. He knew very well that his sealing of space was no simple restriction. He had frozen an entire region of the void itself. Unless someone was stronger than him, it would be extremely difficult to break through that spatial constraint. Yet this peach tree had escaped with ease, and its strength was clearly not greater than his. That meant only one thing. This peach tree's comprehension of spacetime power had already reached a pinnacle surpassing even his own. That was why his casually arranged spatial lock had been broken so easily. Interesting, Su Zimo said. He had originally thought that the peaches in this orchard would be of no use to him. He hadn't expected such an unexpected gain. The peach tree is getting away. Brother Su, hurry and chase it, Wang Zhe shouted. Watching the peach tree escape right in front of them, Su Zimo simply smiled and said, "No rush." He raised his hand, and the shadow tyrant in his grasp drew itself from its sheath. At this moment, the group of Jade Court disciples chasing the peach tree from behind also revealed their abilities, trying to stop it. Some were immensely strong, wielding giant axes. With each swing, the axes cleaved heaven and earth, as if to cut down everything. Some disciples grew a pair of wings on their backs. Immortal chi wrapped around the wings, and with feathers flying, their speed became like streaks of light. Some disciples formed arrays with a single glance. Tens of thousands of formations appeared in an instant. Surrounded by grand teleportation formations, they could travel 10,000 miles in a single step. The one who caught Su Zimo's attention the most was a woman in white robes. Her brows carried a hint of heroism. She wore a veil that covered everything below her eyes. Yet even so, her beauty radiated from the inside out. She held an ice-blue longsword in her hand. The sword's presence was terrifying. Even without any power being channeled into it, it still emitted shocking frost energy, freezing the surrounding space. The ice sword was cold, and the woman was even colder. She raised the sword with both hands. A dazzling beam of icy light shot straight into the sky from the blade. Immediately after, cracking sounds echoed through the void. Snowflakes actually began to fall from the heavens. A weapon capable of such might was certainly no ordinary weapon. Wang Ye cried out in surprise beside him. It's the innate absolute zero sword of the ice lineage. This sword is the sacred treasure of their entire lineage. That woman must be the ice lineage's saintess, Zhao Chui. You've never seen her? Su Zimo asked. Wang Ye could recognize the person just by seeing the weapon, which showed that the innate absolute zero sword was even more famous than Zhao Chui herself. I've lived in Broken Wolf Valley for a long time, so I don't meet many people, Wang Ye explained. And Zhao Chui is said to rarely leave seclusion herself. It's not easy to see her. When boundless frost turned into a surging torrent that froze everything, countless snowflakes drifted through the sky. A broad and majestic ice and snow path formed between heaven and earth. The peach tree's roots were directly frozen, causing its speed to slow down. Interesting, but little girl, you can't bring out the true power of this sword. You can't trap me? The peach tree said as it struggled violently, directly shattering the void. Laughing loudly, it continued, "Let your ancestor come. If they wielded this sword, maybe it would work." "Damn it! This peach tree is way too arrogant," one disciple cursed angrily. Yet there was nothing anyone could do. The peach tree might have a sharp mouth, but its strength was undeniable. Just as everyone thought the peach tree was about to escape again, an ancient blade aura suddenly descended from the sky. The entire peach tree went utterly still. Because even before the blade aura landed, many people felt a chill on their backs, as if needles were pricking them. It was as though that strike was aimed at them, as though their heads had already been severed. "If you take one more step forward, you'll be cut in two." Su Zimo's voice rang out. At this moment, it wasn't just the disciples who were startled. Even the peach tree that had been fleeing was thoroughly shaken. It could clearly sense that this blade aura was aimed directly at it. The aura was sharp beyond measure, unstoppable. If it took even one more step forward, a single strike would likely turn it into nothing more than firewood. For a moment, the peach tree froze in place, unable to move. Immediately afterward, the frost from the innate absolute zero sword followed closely, completely sealing the peach tree in ice. "Yes, we finally caught this guy." The crowd cheered with delight. Zhao Chui's gaze fell on Su Zimo as if she were quietly pondering his identity. "Senior Sister Zhao is amazing. This peach belongs to you now," a disciple beside her said, flattering her. Before Zhao Chui could speak, Wang Zhe retorted angrily. "This peach was clearly stopped by Brother Su. Senior Sister Zhao only came later." "That's right." Wang Ye nodded in agreement. "What are you people from the plant lineage butting in for? Get lost." A nearby disciple snorted coldly. They had naturally seen that Su Zimo was the first to act, but people from the plant lineage were never taken seriously. Since Su Zimo was traveling together with Wang Ye, he was naturally assumed to be a disciple of the plant lineage as well. Hearing these words, Wang Ye and her brother turned livid with anger. Zhao Chui, however, remained calm from beginning to end. She looked at Su Zimo and was the first to speak. "Is this space-time peach for sale? I can offer an equivalent exchange." "Not for sale. I happen to be interested in this peach." Su Zimo shook his head. Zhao Chui looked at Su Zimo for a moment, then nodded. She said nothing more and walked toward the depths of the peach orchard. Instead, the disciples around her became irritated. "Kid, there aren't many people in Jade Court who dare to refuse Senior Sister Zhao. If you know what's good for you, hand over the peach. We won't cheat you." "That's right. If Senior Brother Qin Guan finds out about this, you'll be in serious trouble." "I don't know whether I'll be in serious trouble," Su Zimo said calmly. "But I do know that if you keep yapping, my blade won't mind chopping a few watermelons and seeing some red." As soon as he said this, the surrounding chatter instantly died down. "Junior brother, we're just kindly reminding you. Don't be so ungrateful," someone said, recalling the terrifying blade intent Su Zimo had just released. No one dared to confront him head-on anymore. Instead, they tried to take a roundabout approach. "Senior Brother Qin Guan is Senior Sister Zhao Chui's suitor. You've heard of his reputation, right? He's the saint son of the treasure lineage, and his grandfather is one of Jade Court's core elders." "Get lost?" Su Zimo barked. no longer willing to listen to the nonsense. The shout exploded like thunder. The disciple didn't even have time to react before being blasted away, his eardrums torn apart. Seeing this, the people around realized that Su Zimo truly dared to act. Any lingering hope that he would hold back because they were fellow disciples vanished. One by one, they fell silent and scattered. Some, however, harbored resentment and planned to secretly inform Qin Guan. That was not something Su Zimo concerned himself with. Although he was friendly toward Jade Court, that didn't mean anyone could act arrogantly in front of him. After driving everyone away, Su Zimo finally turned his attention to the peach tree. Under Su Zimo's gaze, the peach tree trembled uncontrollably. Who are you? It asked. Don't be afraid. I only want the peach, Su Zimo said. Unlike other peach trees, which bore at least a dozen or even dozens of peaches, this tree had only a single one. As the saying went, concentration was essence. The space-time power contained in this single peach was so rich it was almost unimaginable. If you want the peach, just pick it yourself, the peach tree said hurriedly. I'm taking this peach. I'm afraid I can't share it with you too, Su Zimo said with a smile as he turned to Wang Ye and Wang Zhe. His principles were simple. If something was useless to him, he was generous and willing to give it away. But if it was something he needed, he would argue his case and refuse to yield an inch. Wang Ye and her brother understood the situation well and quickly smiled. Brother Su, you're too polite. With all the peaches we've gained along the way, we cannot thank you enough for your kindness. We won't covet anything more. Su Zimo nodded. He picked the peach from the tree. Just then, the peach tree spoke again. You want the peach, but in this orchard, the best peach isn't mine. I know. It's the Earth Heart Mother Thunder peach tree deeper inside, Su Zimo said with a smile, nodding. Then do you dare to go meet it? The peach tree laughed. That thing thinks it's the boss of the peach orchard. If you go after it, I'll be your vanguard. Hearing this, Su Zimo chuckled. So even peach trees don't get along with each other? Of course not. Before that thing showed up, I was the boss of this orchard, the peach tree said proudly. It was clear that although it had been created by Jade Court and bore the imprint of the most primitive peach tree consciousness, it was not much different from a normal living being. Su Zimo did not respond. The peach tree grew anxious. Well, say something. Do you believe me or not? I'll think about it, Su Zimo replied with a smile. Wang Ye, standing nearby, hesitated several times as if wanting to speak. After the peach tree left, she finally lowered her voice and said, Did you notice? Obsession, Su Zimo said. The peach tree appeared normal, but what it revealed was an intense obsession. The only reason it was still alive was because of that obsession. Once the obsession dissipated, the peach tree would instantly perish. Generally speaking, a complete living being must go through birth, aging, sickness, and death. Even if one grew stronger through cultivation, that only extended one's lifespan. It granted longevity, not true immortality. But this peach tree did not need to cultivate. Its lifespan seemed endless. That was because it was not a living being. It was an object born of obsession. Its obsession came from the peach orchard. It wanted to be the boss of the orchard, the head of all peach trees. Once that obsession was resolved, the peach tree would vanish into nothingness. Therefore, the peach orchard would never allow this peach tree to find peace of mind. Of course, none of this had anything to do with Su Zimo. He held the peach in his hand. To be honest, the space-time power within it was incredibly dense. Su Zimo showed no hesitation and directly swallowed the peach in a single bite. In an instant, space-time energy twisted and shredded within his body, as if it were trying to devour him. Because Su Zimo's method of consumption was so violent, all of that power erupted at once. Suppress it, Su Zimo said grimly, letting out a low shout. Powerful force surged out as he forcibly compressed it. The power was forcibly compressed. Su Zimo felt the space-time edicts within his body undergoing some indescribable transformation. There was something he had always been curious about. What exactly was the difference between a three-blossom stage cultivator and an ordinary Dao fruit stage cultivator at the infinite Dao realm? After all, edicts were already the pinnacle of this world. Everything revolved around edicts. Back in the Grand Emperor and Saint Sovereign realms, one cultivated nomological truths that transformed into primal Dao, and primal Dao that transformed into primordial edicts at the infinite Dao realm. These were qualitative changes. But what kind of transformation did a three blossoms cultivator undergo? Su Zimo had not known before, because he had only opened 2 flowers so far. One of the 3 flowers, the celestial blossom, had yet to bloom. Now, as the space-time power transformed, he felt that something within him had changed. He carefully sensed it. At last, he confirmed it. His soul was transforming. The 3 blossoms cultivated the soul. Dao fruit stage cultivators cultivated the physical body. 3 blossoms stage cultivators cultivated the soul. 3 selves stage cultivators cultivated the primordial spirit. In truth, once one reached the Dao fruit stage, one had already comprehended the power of edicts, the most terrifying force in existence. Further qualitative transformation was essentially impossible. Instead, that power tempered the flesh, ultimately forging the strongest body in the world. That was the Dao fruit cultivator, using the edicts of the world to temper the body. As for the soul, back when he was a grand emperor, Su Zimo made extensive use of it. His soul bore the imprint of the God world. In terms of soul power, he was unrivaled. However, as his strength grew stronger and stronger, he used his soul less and less. The reason was simple. The progress of the soul had become increasingly slow, even stagnant. As a means of attack, it had fallen behind the times. Su Zimo had grown accustomed to relying on overwhelming power, combined with the 10 primordial God scriptures, or even techniques he created himself. Now, with the steady advancement of the 3 blossoms, he once again realized that the transformation of the soul might also become a viable method. He silently absorbed all the space-time power. In fact, with just this single peach, it was difficult for him to open another blossom. But there was no rush. At the peach banquet, perhaps the truly supreme peaches could help him. "Let's go," Su Zimo said with a smile as he opened his eyes and let out a long breath. Wang Ye and her brother nodded. However, Wang Ye looked hesitant, as if she wanted to say something. "What is it now?" Su Zimo asked. "That Qin Guan," Wang Ye began. "What about Qin Guan?" Su Zimo asked, puzzled. "Should we avoid him for now?" Wang Ye hesitated for a moment before finally saying it. "Oh, big background." Su Zimo laughed. "The treasure lineage is one of the strongest among the 18 lineages, second only to the immortal lineage of the Queen Mother. It ranks second overall." Wang Ye nodded. "Qin Guan is the saint son of the treasure lineage. Everyone knows his intentions toward Zhao Qiui, and you've already offended the forging crane lineage. If you make too many enemies at once, even if you know the saintess, she may not be able to protect you." This was Wang Ye's genuine thought. As for Su Zimo's personal strength, she did not place much weight on it. Perhaps Su Zimo was strong, but this was Jade Court. Even infinite Dao cultivators did not dare to act recklessly here, let alone someone of Su Zimo's age. "I never planned to rely on Yi Qingcheng." Su Zimo shook his head. "I have no grievance or enmity with Qin Guan. If he comes looking for trouble, wouldn't that be unreasonable? Besides, I was the one who caught that peach tree first. Zhao Qiui only came later. Surely Jade Court isn't that unreasonable." Wang Ye wanted to say more, but Su Zimo interrupted her. "Enough. I came with sincerity. If people want to reason, then we'll reason. If they don't, I also have ways that don't involve reasoning." "Then be careful." Wang Ye nodded, still reminding him. "We're not afraid of being dragged down by you anyway. The plant lineage is already like this. Nothing really matters anymore." They continued toward the deepest part of the peach orchard. Along the way, they encountered more and more disciples, as well as increasingly bizarre peach trees. Some peach trees were even in a crazed state, killing anyone they saw. Trees like that were usually kept in isolated confinement. At last, they reached the deepest part of the peach orchard. The scene here was truly magnificent. There were no other peach trees in the deepest area. The ground was purple, as if thunder filled the land. Pale violet arcs of lightning crackled in the air. Some of the lightning transformed into serpent-like dragons, dancing and roaming endlessly through the void. Looking ahead, a towering peach tree stood between heaven and earth. This peach tree was extraordinarily massive. Its trunk was at least as thick as 100 people embracing it together, and its roots plunged deep into the earth. Each root was as powerful as a coiled dragon. Countless roots burrowed into the treasured soil. If it moved even slightly, the entire peach orchard would likely be destroyed. Looking upward, the peach tree was lush with branches and leaves. Its entire body was a deep purple. Every branch and every leaf seemed to be formed from lightning itself. At the very top of the tree were 3 peaches. Each peach manifested a different phenomenon. One peach was like a newborn infant, pale and tender, as if crying loudly. One peach evolved scenes of mountains and seas, mirrored illusions of flowers, towering peaks, still waters, vast oceans, and surging waves. The last peach contained the sun and moon shining together, stars glittering, and boundless light illuminating the heavens. The 3 peaches carried completely different realms and moods. At this moment, a fragrant and sweet aroma spread from them, causing many people to unconsciously swallow. "The peaches have ripened," someone murmured. "I remember the last time these peaches ripened. It was Saintess Yi who picked them," a disciple said respectfully. "That's right. Saintess Yi was chosen as Jade Court Saintess because she picked peaches from this tree." "That's not accurate," someone retorted. "Yi Qingcheng becoming Saintess had nothing to do with the peach tree. Back then, she only picked 1 peach." The crowd discussed endlessly, arguments overlapping one another. When Su Zimo arrived, he saw several familiar faces. There was Saintess Qing from the Heavenly Luan lineage, Zhao Jinwu from the Fire Crow lineage, and Zhao Chui from the Ice lineage. He did not see anyone from the Forging Crane lineage. Although Jade Court was composed of 18 lineages, it was obvious that cliques were common among them. Each lineage formed its own group. Aside from the 3 small groups represented by those 3 figures, Su Zimo also saw 3 other groups. They were from other lineages. One of them was a burly man wearing a black sleeveless vest, his muscles bulging all over his body. He stood around 3 meters tall. With Wang Ye's introduction, Su Zimo learned that this young man was named Demon Peak, the saint son of the giant mountain lineage. There was also a woman wearing a purple leather outfit with heavy makeup. Her lips were purple, her phoenix eyes sharp, and a pair of purple wings extended from her back. She was from the Witch Crow lineage. As for the last person, he looked no different from an ordinary human, except that a sun and moon were imprinted on the center of his brow. Every movement of this man carried a momentum capable of shattering mountains and seas, his presence surging like a rainbow. Around his body, hazy waves of energy faintly surged. If one observed carefully, it was easy to notice that he was constantly absorbing the power of heaven and earth. By day, he drew in the power of the sun. By night, he absorbed the power of the moon. He was also from one of the 18 lineages, the saint son of the sun-moon lineage, Wang Qianjun. The 3 of them stood there, with disciples from their respective lineages faintly gathered around them, forming 3 additional small factions. In an instant, people from 7 of the 18 lineages had arrived. The attraction of this peach tree was undeniable. On Wang Ye's side, however, the plant lineage looked the most desolate. There were only the 3 of them, and no one paid them much attention. Demon Peak of the giant mountain lineage was the first to speak. "Everyone, the Earthheart Mother Thunder peach tree has already matured. Why don't we each rely on our own abilities?" "Relying on our own abilities is fine, but shouldn't we make a wager?" Shen Hongrong of the Witch Crow lineage said with a smile. "Otherwise, it would be a bit too boring." Her lips were purple, and dark, gloomy light flickered in her eyes. Her face was thin, and her skin carried a purplish-black hue. "What does junior sister Shen want to wager?" Wang Qianjun of the Sun-Moon lineage asked calmly. His tone was domineering and forceful. Ordinary things don't interest me, and I don't lack them either, Shen Hongrong said. If we're going to bet, let's bet big. What do you say? The peach banquet opens in 2 days. Who here dares to wager a peach banquet slot? Zhao Jinwu of the Fire Crow lineage said from the side. As soon as he said this, the scene fell into silence. Is he crazy? How can a peach banquet slot be wagered so casually? That's right. With a peach banquet slot, you can obtain a peach. And that's a real peach, picked from the main tree. The crowd immediately erupted into discussion. Saintess Qing of the Heavenly Luan lineage smiled faintly and asked, Junior brother Zhao is really bold. You're even willing to give up a peach slot. To be honest, my Golden Crow creation art has reached a bottleneck, Zhao Jinwu said bluntly. I need peaches to comprehend the Tao. Unfortunately, 1 peach isn't enough. I need more peaches. If I can't get them, then giving up 1 slot doesn't matter. He wanted to use 1 slot to gamble for a greater gain. Nearby, Zhao Qiui of the Ice lineage narrowed her eyes slightly and said, You're quite confident. Do you really think you can beat us? The Golden Crow is inherently domineering. If I weren't domineering, I would have cultivated Fire Crow techniques back then, Zhao Jinwu replied calmly. Instead, I sought out my ancestors' Golden Crow creation art. Even if I die, I'll die standing. What spirit? I'm in, Demon Peak of the Giant Mountain lineage said first. I'll join as well. Shen Hongrong followed immediately. I'll bet. Who's afraid of whom? Since everyone's betting, this little sister will naturally accompany you all, Saintess Qing said with a smile. Almost instantly, the saint sons and saintesses of 6 major lineages reached an agreement on the wager. The surrounding disciples immediately started watching with excitement, speculating over who would take the lead. After all, whoever won could obtain 6 slots at once. That was a direct leap to the top. Why not count us in as well? Just as they were about to make a move to pick the peaches, a voice suddenly sounded from the side. Everyone turned to look and saw Wang Ye slowly stepping forward. Who is she? Seems like someone from the plant lineage, but they've been hiding in Broken Wolf Valley for years. I'm not sure. So it's junior sister Wang, Saintess Qing said with a smile when she saw Wang Ye. Are you here to join the fun too? Wang Ye glanced at Su Zimo, steadying her resolve. This was naturally Su Zimo's idea. She smiled and said, That's right. You won't mind 1 more slot, will you? If junior sister wants to give away a slot, I'll gladly accept it. Zhao Jinwu laughed loudly. Our plant lineage will have brother Su represent us, Wang Ye said calmly, pulling Su Zimo forward. For the plant lineage, whether they could even keep the slot was uncertain to begin with. The forging crane lineage was watching closely. Wang Ye didn't mind using the slot to take a gamble. Besides, they were all saint sons and saintesses of their respective lineages, each with authority over their own slots. No one was worried about anyone backing out. Otherwise, they would have no place to stand in Jade Court. When Su Zimo stepped forward, a strange light flashed through Zhao Qiui's eyes, and her expression grew slightly more serious. Although she had only met Su Zimo once, his strength was something she was wary of. She wasn't confident she could block that blade strike from earlier. Of course, she hadn't gone all out either. Fine. Then the plant lineage gets a share as well. The others nodded. Demon Peak said, So how are we competing? Whoever picks more peaches? Back then, Yi Qingchang was called a once-in-10,000 years genius of Jade Court, and even she only picked 1 peach, Shen Hongrong said with a smile. I'm not looking down on anyone here, but I know I'm not as good as Yi Qingchang. Forget about picking 3 peaches. If I can pick even 1, I'll be satisfied. Clearly, this peach tree was far from as simple as it looked. It stood motionless between heaven and earth, yet the sense of heaviness it exuded, along with its dominion over countless lightning bolts, suppressed the entire peach orchard. Then let's try, Demon Peak said, unwilling to accept this. He stepped into the air, his massive strength erupting as he transformed into a streak of black aurora. Seeing Demon Peak take the lead, the others did not rush. There was even a hint of testing in their expressions as they watched him closely. The moment Demon Peak approached the Earthheart Mother Thunder peach tree, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and struck straight at him. Boom! The lightning was as fast as a shooting star, its might terrifying. Everyone focused their gaze and saw the void where Demon Peak stood explode instantly. In the next moment, a furious roar rang out. Demon Peak's body rapidly expanded, transforming into a giant-like figure. As a member of the giant mountain lineage, strength was their core. Demon Peak roared, panting heavily as he laughed loudly. "You think this little bit of lightning can kill me? You're far from it." He took a step forward and, with overwhelming force, surged upward to grab the peaches. Several branches tried to intercept him midway, but they were all blown apart by a single punch. This was absolute power. The strength of the giant mountain lineage truly lives up to its reputation, Wang Qianjun of the Sun Moon lineage remarked. But with just this level, it probably won't be enough, Shen Hongrong said calmly. As her words fell, a loud boom echoed. Demon Peak's figure was suddenly blasted back down. So fast. Everyone was shocked. In the blink of an eye, Demon Peak could no longer hold on. At this moment, he was scorched by lightning. His hair stood straight up, and his already dark skin looked even darker. Black smoke puffed from his mouth as he struggled to stand up and looked at the stunned crowd. "What are you all standing there for?" he shouted. "Attack together." "The peach tree really lives up to its reputation," someone muttered. Among the crowd, Demon Peak's strength was already considered quite impressive. As the saint son of the giant mountain lineage, everything Demon Peak cultivated was part of that lineage's supreme techniques. In particular, once members of this lineage grew gigantic, both their defense and offense became astonishing. Even so, he had still been blasted into a sorry state by a single bolt of lightning. If not for his powerful regenerative ability, he would probably have been a bloody mess by now. The expressions of everyone present grew solemn. "Everyone, let's join forces," Shen Hongrong said. "First suppress this peach tree. Then each of us can rely on our own abilities to compete for the peaches." Behind her, black-purple wings flapped rapidly. A black storm began to gather, sand and stones flying as the sky darkened. The others nodded in agreement. Zhao Jinwu waved his hand, and a torrent of flames erupted. He had already cultivated the golden crow flame. This was the greatest reason he could become the saint son of the fire crow lineage. Heaven-piercing flames turned into a towering fire pillar that directly engulfed the peach tree. On the other side, Saintess Qing rapidly formed seals with her hands. Spiritual energy surged violently in the void and transformed into a male and a female celestial Yuan, which flew forward at high speed. As for Zhao Chui, she held the innate absolute zero sword. White light radiated from her body. The light was dazzling, yet it froze everything. She and the sword seemed to merge into one. The innate absolute zero sword had been the personal weapon of the ice lineage's ancestral masters through the generations. Holding this sword not only represented recognition from the ancestors, but also allowed the wielder to draw upon the residual power they had left behind. The 5 of them were almost going all out. As for the 6th person, Wang Qianjun of the Sun Moon lineage, he did not rush to act. The sun and moon on his forehead glowed simultaneously, as if he were brewing something. At this moment, several attacks struck the peach tree, yet they seemed insufficient. The massive trunk of the peach tree trembled lightly. Several purple leaves drifted down from its branches. One leaf transformed into a torrent of lightning that directly struck down the celestial wand summoned by Saintess Qing. Another leaf became a lightning spear. The spear shot forth like a dragon and cleaved Zhao Jinwu's golden crow flame in half. Another leaf, mingling thunder and fire, clashed directly with the innate absolute zero sword. One leaf transformed into a lightning tombstone. Wherever the tombstone stood, everything was suppressed, and the witch crow storm was instantly crushed. Another leaf turned into a giant hand, wrapping around Demon Peak and preventing him from breaking free. One leaf, one phenomenon. Each phenomenon formed a heavenly spectacle. With only 5 leaves, The peach tree had already dealt with everyone. This is just two, Demon Peak said with a bitter expression, unable to finish his sentence. Everyone, don't hold back anymore, or there won't be another chance, someone urged. I did hold back, Shin Hongrong said grimly. But judging by this situation, even if we don't, I'm afraid we still can't do anything to the Earthheart Mother Thunder peach tree. Saintess Qing, however, took it in stride and smiled. I used to feel unconvinced when Yi Qingcheng became Jade Court Saintess, thinking I was no worse than her. But she managed to pluck a peach from this tree. Now I'm convinced. Zhao Jinwu said nothing, but his expression was equally unpleasant. He had always been extremely confident, and this was the first time he had suffered such a heavy blow. Everyone, let's go all out one more time, Shin Hongrong said. If it still doesn't work, we'll stop. How about that? After all, many disciples were watching from the surroundings. If they kept taking hit after hit, it would not be good for their reputations. Even geniuses needed to save face. I'll go first, Demon Peak snorted coldly. The muscles all over his body tightened, each sinew bulging and knotting together. He raised his head, his eyes suddenly turning blood-red, like an enraged wild bull. Giant mountain charge, he roared, slamming straight toward the peach tree. It was as if nothing could withstand this blow. Just brute force, Zhao Jinwu said coldly. The golden crow flame around his body burned furiously, covering him completely. Suddenly, the cry of a golden crow echoed through the heavens. Zhao Jinwu transformed his body into a golden crow. Beastly might surged like a vast sea as he charged forward, his form like a blazing sun illuminating eternity. Shin Hongrong was also enveloped in black energy, transforming into a crow. She was the saintess of the witch crow lineage. This crow was not an ordinary crow. Their lineage possessed mixed blood of humans and crows, considered a type of half-demon. What they cultivated was the legendary witchcraft. The heritage of this lineage ran deep. Jade Court had existed for billions of years up to the present era. In the most ancient primordial times, they were already around. Jade Court had produced 17 queen mothers of the West. This was an astonishing fact. Across such a long span of time, there had only been 17 queen mothers. That was because each generation of queen mother had an extremely long lifespan. This was not only related to the techniques they cultivated, but also to the life-extending effects of the peach trees. That was the heaven-defying nature of the peaches. The current queen mother had ruled Jade Court for 30 million years. Within Jade Court, the queen mother held supreme authority. Even peaches could be enjoyed exclusively by her. Among the 17 generations of queen mothers, one of them had been the founder of the witch crow lineage. Back then, the witch crow lineage had been even more prosperous than today's immortal lineage. It had been the true main lineage. Although it had declined somewhat, its strength was still formidable. At this moment, black energy slowly spread around Shin Hongrong. Witchcraft. Heavenly demon sovereign chaos. She gave a soft shout. In an instant, her long hair flew wildly, and her eyes exploded with purple light. Countless flocks of black crows burst forth from behind her. Unlike the golden crow, which crows were only palm-sized and looked extremely small. Yet these tiny witch crows now numbered in the tens of millions, densely covering the sky and blotting out everything. Their method of attack was peculiar. As they gathered together, they formed a devouring force. They swallowed heaven and earth. As for Zhao Chui, she had remained silent the entire time. The cold of the innate absolute zero sword in her hand grew ever more intense as she spoke 4 words, absolute zero. Each word seemed to carry the Tao of ice. Saintess Qing of the heavenly Luan lineage had 2 beams of light rotating in her eyes. The sharp beams shot into the void, stirring the wind and clouds, piercing the sky, and twisting heaven and earth. Heavenly Luan Void Seal, Saintess Qing shouted as she waved her hand. This power was seized by her, and the void rippled outward as everything was sealed in place. As for Wang Qianjun, he had not acted at all from the beginning, continuously brewing something. Now his eyes suddenly snapped open. At some point, a blazing sun and a bright moon had appeared in the sky. The sun and moon fused together, slowly rising, radiating and reflecting each other. Sun-Moon Dharma Seal, Wang Qianjun shouted softly. His momentum was the most overwhelming of all. As the Dharma Seal descended, heaven and earth were shrouded by a blazing sun and a dark moon. With a thunderous boom, the sun and moon merged. The momentum surpassed everything else, and boundless power surged endlessly. The world trembled and collapsed as sun and moon pressed down together. Everyone unleashed their full strength, yet the Earthheart Mother Thunder Peach Tree remained astonishingly calm. Strands of lightning began to gather along its trunk. Crackling sounds rang out incessantly. Amid annihilation, the lightning gave birth to new power, forming a transparent barrier. This was a lightning shield, capable of both offense and defense. It was clear that the peach tree bore no hostility toward the crowd. Its intent was more to make them retreat in the face of difficulty. If it truly wished to attack, it would not have resorted to such restrained methods. Demon Peak's charge struck the shield first. The barrier merely rippled, without the slightest sign of collapse. Next came the Golden Crow, wrapped in blazing Golden Crow flames. Its talons were engulfed in fire, as if they could tear apart everything. Under its grasp, the sky itself seemed as fragile as paper. Yet even such a fearsome strike failed to shake the shield. Instead, the backlash sent Zhao Jinwu flying backward. On the other side, Saintess Qing and Shun Hongrong exchanged a glance and prepared to strike together. The heavenly Luan Void Seal was one of the divine arts capable of imprisoning space itself. A cry of a heavenly Luan seemed to echo across the firmament. An intangible phantom of the Luan flashed by, and the entire sky was suppressed. Immediately after, the witchcraft formed by the rage of the heavenly demon king manifested as swarms of witch crows rushing forward. From up close, it was countless small witch crows packed densely together. But from afar, it became clear that they formed a massive divine crow. This divine crow was created by the aggregation of countless witch crows. Its presence was overwhelming, its momentum soaring like a rainbow. Its gloomy eyes seemed to possess the power to steal souls. A pair of colossal wings blotted out the sky as they beat. From the divine crow's beak, a purple torrent surged forth. Thunderous roars echoed as that torrent carried death, evil, corrosion, and countless other forces combined. When the power struck, the lightning shield began to explode continuously. Bolt after bolt of lightning was ground away. It's working. The crowd's eyes lit up, joy rising before it could fully take shape. Then came another boom. As if insulted, the lightning shield condensed a bolt into the shape of a thunder god's hammer. With a single strike, the heavens collapsed. Although the divine crow struggled desperately to evade, one of its wings was still shattered. The pain drove it mad, and with a furious scream, it charged toward the lightning shield in a suicidal assault. The thunder god's hammer struck again. This blow violently shattered Saintess Qing's spatial seal. The hammer collided head-on with the divine crow. The entire void froze for an instant. Now, Shen Hongrong shouted. Zhao Chui's absolute zero descended. Winter arrived, and everything in the world returned to wind and snow. The frost spread outward, enveloping the entire peach tree. In an instant, the lightning shield was covered by vast white snow, which rapidly froze into ice. It worked! The crowd cried out in delight. Cracks appeared in the frozen shell as the lightning shield finally failed to hold. At last it shattered. The rest is up to you. Everyone turned to look at Wang Qianjun. With the combined strength of all of them, they had only managed to break the outer shield of the peach tree. That alone was already shocking. But their internal power was nearly exhausted. They still needed strength to compete for the peaches, so they could not afford to drain themselves completely. Wang Qianjun said nothing. He faced the peach tree directly, with the sun and moon hovering above his head. As long as heaven and earth still have light, the great sun rises 30,000 miles from the east. Wang Qianjun stood with his hands behind his back, his gaze solemn. His golden robe rippled. In an instant, the sun and moon behind him spun. The sky turned fiery red. Countless cracks spread across the heavens. From those fissures, fireballs like meteors rained down. A rough glance suggested there were at least 1,000. Naturally, the peach tree countered. Its massive trunk shuddered as lightning surged violently, weaving together into a vast net of thunder. The lightning net was airtight, enveloping every fireball and silently devouring them. Wang Qianjuan's eyes sharpened. He swept his right hand again. When heaven and earth fall into darkness, the bright moon becomes the heavenly palace. For a brief moment the world dimmed. Though the darkness lasted only an instant, any divine art capable of stirring such phenomena was terrifyingly powerful. The surrounding disciples were stunned. The sun and moon scripture. This is the sun-moon lineage's supreme art. I heard it's extremely difficult to master. Did Wang Qianjun really succeed? More than succeed. The sun and moon scripture has reached great completion. No wonder the saint sun position belongs to him. The crowd marveled, their eyes fixed on the peach tree. After the brief darkness, a palace appeared in the sky. The palace was incomparably grand, adorned with auspicious clouds and flowing radiance. Qilin guarded its gates, and a bright moon hung above it. The palace had no name, yet it exuded an air of aloof purity. As it descended, it felt as though nothing in the world could stop it. Heavenly Palace. That's the Heavenly Palace, someone shouted. Does such a thing truly exist in this world? They say the senior who created the sun and moon scripture once truly saw the Heavenly Palace. One day, a palace flew across the sky from one horizon to the other. That senior saw it only once, yet never forgot it, lingering on it ever after. And in the end, he created the Heavenly Palace moon seal. The Heavenly Palace descended, attempting to forcibly suppress the peach tree. Can it work? Someone murmured. The massive Heavenly Palace carried an overwhelming pressure. It continued to shift and change, and many people felt crushed just by sensing it. The peach tree seemed to feel it as well. Lightning gathered wildly around it, bolts striking again and again at the Heavenly Palace. Yet the palace stood firm and unmoving. No matter how violently the lightning raged, it could not shake it in the slightest. Just as the Heavenly Palace was about to fall, a hazy purple light suddenly burst forth from the peach tree. Its branches began to grow madly, transforming in an instant into a colossal tree. Countless branches surged upward, forcibly lifting the Heavenly Palace and holding it aloft. How is this possible? Wang Qianjuan's face darkened. The Heavenly Palace can suppress all power in the world. How can a mere peach tree block it? Shen Hongrong shook her head and sighed. Only the true Heavenly Palace can suppress everything. What's formed through cultivation is ultimately an illusion. Crack, crack. The branches held up the Heavenly Palace, but the strain was immense. Then the branches surged forward, hurling the Heavenly Palace straight back toward the crowd. The Heavenly Palace carried immense pressure as it was hurled over, blotting out the sky. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Someone shouted, Wang Qianjun, hurry and withdraw the sun and moon scripture. Wang Qianjun looked as though he were about to cry. He could no longer maintain his composed demeanor and replied, The Heavenly Palace has slipped out of my control. I can't take it back. Boom! The massive Heavenly Palace fell from the sky. The crowd scattered in panic like ants on a hot pan. The Heavenly Palace was already terrifying on its own. With the added force from the peach tree, the impact became even more violent. Brother Su, let's run. Wang Yi shouted as she grabbed Su Zimo. No rush. Su Zimo shook his head with a smile. So this counts as their failure? Then the peach banquet slots belong to me. At a time like this, you're still thinking about slots? Wang Yi yelled. Su Zimo's eyes flashed with explosive purple light. As demonic energy surged around him, he stepped forward, startling Wang Yi badly. Before she could say anything, Su Zimo advanced instead of retreating, sprinting straight toward the Heavenly Palace. This action left everyone around him stunned. Is this guy insane? He's going to face the heavenly palace head-on? That guy. Even the saints' sons and saintesses noticed Su Zimo at this moment. As the heavenly palace descended, Su Zimo threw a punch. Black demonic energy surged around his fist, as if the punch carried the might to split heaven itself. His feet stamped firmly on the ground, making the earth shudder violently. Boom! At that instant, Su Zimo appeared incomparably small before the enormous heavenly palace. Yet despite his size, that single punch drew the attention of the entire world. What kind of punch was it? The demonic energy on his fist roared, as if evolving into countless worlds, tearing apart all voids. It did not look massive, yet it was a punch that split heaven itself. Boom! Under the incredulous gazes of the crowd, Su Zimo's punch collided directly with the heavenly palace. Rumble, rumble. The entire peach orchard shook violently, and many people found themselves swaying unsteadily. Cracks like coiling dragons spread across the ground. What terrifying force, someone said gravely. So what happened? What else could happen? Like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. He's definitely been crushed to death, a disciple said with schadenfreude. No, look, the dust is clearing. Another disciple shouted in shock. Amid the dispersing dust and mist, Su Zimo stood calmly with his hands behind his back. His long robe fluttered, his hair flowing freely. Before him, the massive heavenly palace had been smashed into fragments, leaving only traces of fading edicts behind. Everyone around stood dumbfounded. What a tough fist, someone finally said after a long pause, not knowing what else to say. Who is this person? When did Jade Court get such a disciple, and without any reputation at all? For a moment, countless people grew even more curious about Su Zimo's identity. At this time, Su Zimo turned around and looked at the crowd with a smile. Since you all couldn't do it, I'll take the peaches. As the saying goes, once you finish singing, it's my turn to take the stage. This was his arena. The saints' sons and saintesses looked at one another. Shun Hongrong smiled faintly and said, If Junior Brother has the ability to pluck the peaches, I'll personally hand over the slot. Good. Su Zimo laughed loudly. He slowly drew Shadow Tyrant from his back, his gaze fixed on the towering Earthheart Mother Thunder peach tree. Do you think he can do it? Shen Hongrong asked with interest. What? Senior sister has taken a liking to him? Wang Qianjun narrowed his eyes. Having his heavenly palace shattered had left Wang Qianjun in a foul mood. If he can pluck the peaches, wouldn't it be normal to take an interest in him? Shen Hongrong shot back. Demon Peak scratched the back of his head and said, I don't really know him, but that punch earlier was strong. Zhao Qiui, who had remained silent, stared at Su Zimo's back and said, His blade is very strong. She recalled how, while chasing the space-time peach tree earlier, Su Zimo's single slash had forced it to stop fleeing. That was her assessment. Interesting. With the peach banquet approaching, Jade Court is getting livelier by the day, Shen Hongrong said with a smile. You still have the mood to laugh? Our peach banquet slots are about to be taken, Saintess Qing replied. It's just peaches. Besides, whether he can actually take them is another matter, Shen Hongrong said calmly. Nine Hells Descent, Su Zimo said as he slowly raised Shadow Tyrant. The blade seemed as though it had been pulled straight from the depths of the Nine Hells. Black, sinister energy coiled around the blade, like endless worlds and the underworld itself. The entire blade embodied only one law, death. Su Zimo looked like death itself incarnate. When the blade fell, everyone's vision blurred. It felt as though it was not a blade descending, but the underworld itself. Sensing imminent danger, the peach tree's trunk surged violently. Countless bolts of lightning roared as lightning whips lashed toward Su Zimo's blade. Bang, bang, bang. Yet the blade's edge was incomparably sharp. No matter whether it was branches or lightning, everything was cleaved cleanly in two. The peach tree seemed enraged. The three peaches atop it erupted with brilliant light simultaneously. The originally purple lightning began transforming into black lightning. That black lightning carried an aura of destruction that made people's hearts tremble. "That's the thunder of death," someone said. This thunder was no ordinary force. It was said that once released, it could annihilate everything. Legend had it that the thunder of death only emerged when an entire world shattered. As soon as it appeared, people instinctively retreated, afraid of being caught in the aftermath. The surging thunder of death gathered together, eventually forming the shape of a celestial spear. Blade and spear collided. Terrifying power surged like a raging sea. Rumble, rumble. Two extreme forces compressed together before colliding violently. Ear-splitting explosions rang out as blinding blade and lightning light burst forth. At that moment, many people did not even dare to look directly. When the blade light devoured everything, even the celestial spear could not withstand it. Expressions shifted across the crowd. "Even that couldn't stop him?" someone murmured. "How does he compare to the Saintess?" At this moment, some people were even beginning to compare Su Zimo to Yi Qingcheng. More people, however, remained silent. At last, as the blade light faded and the thunder dissipated, Su Zimo's strike was ultimately blocked. But the peach tree had also suffered enormous loss. Its lightning was nearly exhausted, and many branches looked almost withered, as though it had truly endured a great calamity. Su Zimo withdrew his blade and looked calmly at the peach tree. Smiling, he said, "It's no small feat that you could block one of my strikes. A special existence like you should not have been born against the will of heaven. I don't wish to destroy you. Let the peaches fall. Otherwise, when the next blade comes, you won't just lose branches. You'll lose your life." As soon as these words fell, the entire peach tree began to tremble violently. The peach tree began to shake. The 3 peaches on it swayed unsteadily, as if they might fall at any moment. Seeing this, the crowd was stunned. No way! Did the peach tree really get threatened by him? That's insane. This peach tree has stood in the peach orchard for who knows how many years. Past generations of Jade Court disciples couldn't even threaten it, let alone pick peaches from it. As the crowd murmured, 3 dull sounds rang out in succession. The 3 peaches separated from the peach tree, evolving countless edicts as they floated down from the void. This meant that in order to preserve itself, the peach tree had chosen to give up the peaches. Some disciples, their greed stirred, tried to fish in troubled waters. One of them shouted, "Everyone, the peaches have fallen. Without the peach tree's protection, let's grab them." At these words, many disciples grew restless. They could never obtain the true peaches of the peach banquet anyway. There was only one slot among the 18 lineages, and it would never be their turn. But if they could get these 3 peaches in front of them, the benefits would still be enormous. The disciple who shouted first was clearly tempted and rushed forward immediately, trying to seize the peaches. This behavior was shameless. After all, these peaches had been forced down by Su Zimo. But in the pursuit of strength, what did a bit of shamelessness matter? That was the common thought among many of them. The saints' sons and saintesses, however, did not move. To them, this was beneath their dignity, and they disliked it instinctively. "No wonder Jade Court keeps declining," Su Zimo sneered. "With disciples like you, is this really the future of Jade Court? Trying to snatch things right in front of me. That's not daring to steal from a tiger's mouth. That's straight-up courting death." Shadow Tyrant in his hand began to stir. Terrifying blade intent swept across the sky. "Young master, please hold back a little," Zhao Chui said from the side, unable to bear it, and pleaded. "What? You want to stop me?" Su Zimo glanced at her and asked calmly. "Chui is no match for you," Zhao Chui said. "But these disciples acted out of momentary greed. They deserve punishment, not death." She was kind-hearted by nature, and in this matter, the Jade Court disciples were indeed in the wrong. Su Zimo could not be bothered to argue with her. He said flatly, "Punishing them is Jade Court's business. Killing them is mine. Don't tell me how to do things." As his words fell, overwhelming blade intent erupted. It was like a curtain of blades descending from the heavens. In the next instant, The first group of Jade Court disciples who had rushed forward were instantly slaughtered. Blade Intent exploded, tearing everything apart. Those disciples did not even have the chance to resist before their bodies were ripped to pieces, turning into rivers of blood that splashed across the ground. The disciples charging behind them turned pale and stopped dead in their tracks. Cold sweat drenched their bodies as a chill shot from their feet straight to their heads. In that instant, it felt as though they had just walked through the gates of hell. Looking at the corpses of their fellow disciples in front of them, some felt nothing but relief. If they had been a little faster, the ones lying in the blood would have been them. "Senior brother, don't be angry. We won't compete with you. It's a misunderstanding." All a misunderstanding. Some disciples immediately backed down. Others were even more terrified and dropped to their knees. "Senior brother, please be magnanimous. We were blinded by greed. Just spare us this once." "I'm a very generous person," Su Zimo said with a smile. "If you want peaches, then we'll rely on our own abilities." Looking at his smile, many people felt a chill run down their spines. The reason so many had dared to fight over the peaches earlier was that, although they knew they were no match for Su Zimo, they believed they had strength in numbers. They also believed Su Zimo would not dare to kill them. After all, slaughtering so many disciples in Jade Court would bring immense trouble, regardless of which lineage one belonged to. But Su Zimo was like a madman. With a single strike, he had wiped out half of them. If they had been any faster, they would all be dead. This man truly dared to kill. No matter how Jade Court might deal with this afterward, surviving the present moment was the most important thing. Even now, many disciples still assumed Su Zimo was a Jade Court disciple. After all, Jade Court had countless disciples, and no one could recognize them all. Su Zimo walked step by step to the base of the peach tree and picked up all 3 peaches. He was currently attempting to open the celestial blossom and achieve the full blooming of the 3 blossoms. These 3 peaches were far from sufficient. If opening the 3 blossoms was a grand feast, then these 3 peaches were nothing more than appetizers. Not worth mentioning. Who exactly is this guy? Which lineage is he from? Why have none of us ever seen him? Could he be from one of the fallen lineages? The crowd buzzed with speculation. At that moment, hurried footsteps from outside the peach orchard drew everyone's attention. A group of disciples wearing white and cyan robes rushed over with grim expressions. "It's the Forging Crane lineage," someone said. "The Forging Crane lineage is here too? They look aggressive. Did someone offend them?" The crowd murmured. When the group arrived, one of them pointed at Su Zimo and shouted, "It's him. He's the one who killed junior brother Tian Xingzi." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd was stunned. So he's a killing god. Looks like he's slaughtered quite a few Jade Court disciples. This is going to get interesting. The Forging Crane lineage won't let this go. Everyone watched eagerly. When Su Zimo killed people in the peach orchard, it was because the Jade Court disciples had tried to seize the peaches. They deserved it, and Su Zimo had reason on his side. But the Forging Crane lineage was another matter entirely. With old grudges added to new ones, this was bound to be a spectacle. Seeing Su Zimo, the Forging Crane lineage disciples surged forward and surrounded him. Leading them was a man wearing a cyan jade robe, with long hair draped over his shoulders. A sinister aura clung to him. He had a long face, sinister eyes, and a hooked nose. "It's Wang Xie, the saint's son of the Forging Crane lineage," someone said. "Even the saint's son is involved. This won't end peacefully." "Was it you who killed my Forging Crane lineage disciples?" Wang Xie looked at Su Zimo and asked calmly. "Yes." Su Zimo nodded with a smile. "There were circumstances." Wang Ye and her brother hurried forward to explain. "It was your Forging Crane lineage disciples who were in the wrong first. No matter how wrong they were, that doesn't justify killing them." Wang Xie snorted coldly. "There's no need to explain further. Surrender without resistance and come with me to the Law Enforcement Hall to receive judgment." At these words, Wang Ye's face turned pale. The Law Enforcement Hall. The elders who controlled it came from the Forging Crane lineage. If Su Zimo were taken there, how could he possibly survive? She hurriedly said, "No, he can't go to the law enforcement hall. Whether he goes or not isn't for you to decide," Wang Xie said indifferently, waving his hand. A terrifying power instantly burst forth. Wang Xie's gaze was like that of a vicious crane staring straight ahead, as if it could see through a person. As the holy son of the casting crane lineage, his strength was beyond question. "Wang Xie is going to suffer this time," said the holy sons and holy maidens of the other lineages nearby, clearly enjoying the spectacle. Saintess Qing laughed and said, "This Wang Xie has always been arrogant. It's good for him to take a loss." Although they had never fought Su Zimo themselves, the strength Su Zimo had just displayed already surpassed theirs. With a single slash, he had forced the peach tree to abandon its peaches. At the very least, none of them could do that. "Come to think of it, this guy shouldn't be a disciple of our Jade Court," someone said. "Probably not. With the peach banquet approaching, it seems things are getting more and more lively," someone else said with a smile. On the other side, when Wang Xie's powerful aura erupted, lightning flickered in his eyes. He let out a light shout. "Wang Ye, this matter has nothing to do with you. If you dare interfere, you will bear the consequences yourself." Wang Xie brought his palms together, then slowly separated them. A slender beam of extreme light split apart between his hands. Looking closely, one would discover that this beam of light was actually a long spear. The spear looked as if it had been cast from ancient bronze, radiating a primitive aura. On the shaft of the spear, a green crane emerged through mist, constantly evolving into all kinds of postures. "It's the Tyrant Crane Spear, the lineage-protecting treasure of the Casting Crane branch," someone among the spectators said. "I didn't expect the Casting Crane lineage to hand this spear to Wang Xie so quickly. That's normal. After all, Wang Xie is the leading figure among this generation of disciples." Zhao Qiui replied calmly. The innate zero sword in her hand was no less formidable. After all, as the holy sons and holy maidens of each lineage, they largely represented that lineage's future. Their authority was immense. Otherwise, they wouldn't be qualified to gamble using each lineage's quota for the peach banquet. Wang Yu was about to say something more, but her shoulder was patted by Su Zimo. "Enough. What's there to say to him? He's just another soul destined to die under my blade." "Arrogant." Wang Xie snorted heavily upon hearing Su Zimo's blatant words. Without another word, he thrust the spear straight forward. A powerful surge of energy burst from the spear shaft, piercing the surrounding void. With just a casual thrust, it carried such overwhelming might. Su Zimo, however, simply reached out with one hand and grabbed the spear tip in his palm. A terrifying force surged forth, annihilating everything. Wang Xie's expression changed slightly. He felt as though the spear, once caught, had sunk into a mire. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it free. "So you do have some skill. No wonder you're so arrogant," Wang Xie said coldly. The aura around him grew stronger and stronger, and the green crane on the spear seemed about to awaken. Yet just as he exerted himself to break free, Su Zimo suddenly released his grip. The powerful inertia sent Wang Xie flying backward. Someone nearby couldn't help but laugh, because when Wang Xie was flung away, he landed face-first in a dog-eat-dirt posture, his head awkwardly stuck between his legs. The casting crane disciples who had come with him hurried forward to help him up. "Get lost, all of you. Get lost," Wang Xie shouted as he shook them off, staring at Su Zimo in shame and rage. It was as if flames were burning in his eyes. "You deserve to die," he said through clenched teeth, each word forced out. At that moment, towering green light erupted from his body, shooting straight into the sky. This humiliation, suffered in front of so many people, could only be washed away by grinding Su Zimo to dust. Within the surging light, a green crane soared out. The crane opened its beak, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was swallowed up like a whale drinking the sea. Immediately after, the green crane transformed into a beam of green light and surged into the Tyrant Crane Spear in Wang Xie's hand. In an instant, The power of the tyrant crane spear grew ever stronger, vast and boundless like the ocean. Green light also wrapped around Wang Xie's body, condensing into a suit of armor. "Kill!" he roared, raising the spear high. Like a spear god descending to the world, an overwhelming force pressed down from all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Wang Xie thrust out with his spear, piercing the void. As the spear shot forward, its tip transformed into a green crane. The crane spread its wings, carrying fierce spear intent as it charged forward with devastating force. Su Zimo swung the shadow tyrant saber forward. From the blade, a terrifying saber intent rumbled forth, suppressing everything. When saber and spear collided, the green crane pressed a claw onto Shadow Tyrant, trying to devour it. But the saber intent on Shadow Tyrant was world-destroying. It instantly annihilated the green crane. With a loud bang, the spear itself remained, but it was sent flying by a single slash. Wang Xie's body was also flung backward right after. Even though he hurriedly released the spear, the tremendous force still slammed him hard to the ground. Wang Xie looked up, his eyes filled with shock. Both of his hands trembled uncontrollably, as if a massive force had nearly shattered his entire arms. And that wasn't all. When he looked at the tyrant crane spear, he saw that the green crane phantom on it had been dispersed by that single strike. "You, who exactly are you?" Wang Xie asked urgently. At this point, even if he wanted to keep fighting, he knew something was terribly wrong. "The one who will kill you," Su Zimo replied, holding Shadow Tyrant as he walked forward step by step. Each step was like the footfall of death itself. "You don't come any closer," Wang Xie cried out in panic as he struggled to get up. He looked around at the people nearby and shouted, "What are you all watching for? Hurry up and save me." The crowd exchanged glances. Some wanted to save Wang Xie, but intimidated by Su Zimo's overwhelming presence, none dared to act. "If I die, and you fellow disciples stand by and do nothing, do you really think you'll escape responsibility?" Wang Xie shouted again. Several holy sons and holy maidens nearby shook their heads. "It seems we can't just ignore this," Shen Hongrong said with a helpless smile. After all, even though they belonged to different lineages, they were still all Jade Court disciples. If they truly stood by and watched him die, it would be hard to justify. Especially since the elder of the casting crane lineage was an enforcement elder. This matter could not be brushed aside so easily. "If we're going to interfere, we also need the strength to do so," Saintess Qing said with a smile. With the strength of the few of them combined, they probably still wouldn't be a match for Su Zimo. After all, the incident with the peach tree had already given everyone a rough idea of Su Zimo's power. "If we don't have the strength, then there's nothing we can do," Shen Hongrong replied. It was clear that the casting crane lineage was not well liked within Jade Court. With Shen Hongrong's words, everyone understood. Their so-called intervention was merely a formality, something to give the casting crane lineage an explanation. No one was going to rush forward to die when they clearly weren't a match. "Perfect. I also want to spar with him," Zhao Jinwu said from the side. He believed himself to be among the strongest in Jade Court, but there was always someone stronger beyond. He wanted to test the gap between himself and the outside world. As they spoke, several of them had already walked to stand opposite Su Zimo. Saintess Qing smiled and said, "Young master, we have no intention of offending you. We are simply forced to act. We ask for your understanding. Since you're going to make a move, stop wasting words." "My blade shows no mercy," Su Zimo said coolly. Shadow Tyrant in his hand surged with wild energy, its tremendous power rolling through the void. Seeing the towering blade intent, none of the others dared act rashly. Saintess Qing was first to move. A sky full of azure luan birds condensed into a rushing torrent, and curtain after curtain of heavenly force came slashing toward Su Zimo. Zhao Qiui stepped back half a pace and launched her own flood of ice and snow. The others were not to be outdone. In an instant the void was filled with the cries of golden crows, the bellowing of wild bulls, swarms of witch crows, and the radiance of sun and moon hanging overhead. It was plain to see that they were merely going through the motions, each making a perfunctory strike before quickly retreating. As far as they were concerned, this was nothing more than completing an assignment, performing the formality. Whether Wang Xie lived or died no longer mattered. They had made their move, and if they failed to save him, that was simply a matter of insufficient ability. Queen Mother would have no grounds to blame them. Though they were only putting on a show, those torrents of power were tremendous, roiling and crashing, engulfing everything in sight. Su Zimo bore the brunt of it. He raised Shadow Tyrant high and gripped the blade with both hands. He laughed loudly. As courtesy demands, I shall return your gesture in kind. Since you've blocked my path, allow me to offer you a gift. The blade rotated slightly, and a brilliant sword light rippled outward like a sea of blades, undulating through the void. Then he drew his right arm back, his gaze sharp as a torch, and brought the blade sweeping down in a single horizontal slash. Boom! The tremendous blade intent pierced the cosmos, and with an unstoppable, all-crushing force it tore every torrent apart. Nor did it stop there. After shredding the torrents, the residual blade energy remained mighty, sweeping toward the crowd. Blade light erupted from the ground and soared into the heavens. Both the earth and the sky were carved open with deep, bottomless trenches that seemed to have no end. Run! Seeing this, the faces of the saint sons and saintess changed drastically. They could not block that blade light. They had judged it in a single instant. But no matter how fast they moved, they could not outrun the all-encompassing blade intent. Another boom. A world-shaking explosion detonated in the midst of the crowd. Even those who had been on guard were blasted off their feet by the tremendous shockwave. Su Zimo paid the others no further mind. The tip of his blade was now pointed directly at Wang Xie. Wang Xie had recovered a little strength and scrambled to his feet in a sorry state, sprinting toward the exit of the peach garden. There was no hope of winning in a fight. Escape was his only remaining chance at survival. Su Zimo watched his retreating figure, tilted Shadow Tyrant slightly, and launched a heaven-cleaving column of blade light directly after him. The blade light swept through heaven and earth. In an instant, the entire peach garden was engulfed in flying sand and tumbling rocks, the sky darkening as though a storm had swallowed the sun. No! Wang Xie spun around, his eyes wide with terror. He let out a great cry, and then his whole body was swallowed by the blade light. Inside the Jade Court, on a solitary island veiled in immortal mist and sheltered by ancient trees, gossamer vapors drifted through heaven and earth, while melodious birdsong and the fragrance of flowers washed over everything. This island held only a single palace. Before the palace stood a sculpture of a woman ascending to immortality. The entire structure was white and silver in color, not grand in scale, yet carrying a subtle quality of ethereal grace. Immortal trees had taken root within the palace's towers and corridors. Spirit sparrows perched upon the roof tiles. Golden carvings gleamed, and iron trees bore silver blossoms. This palace rested within that realm as though it had always belonged there. Inside the main hall, a column of women stood on either side, arrayed in 2 rows. At the very head of the hall, there were 2 seats. The principal seat was shrouded in a dense mist through which nothing could be discerned, only a formidable power pulsing outward from within, as though suppressing all of existence. Seated beside that principal seat was Yi Qingcheng. At this moment she wore a pale white gown, with celestial beauty and jade-like features, the saintess crown upon her head, her long dress cascading like the Milky Way poured down from the 9th heaven. Her skin was so delicate it seemed it might shatter at a touch, white as snow, untouched by a single speck of filth. She sat there, already carrying the bearing of one who commands from above. In the center of the hall, the heaven-watching mirror rotated without pause. The heaven-watching mirror had been left behind by the previous Queen Mother. It had been forged by drawing upon the sun, the moon, the stars, and 72 of the world's most spiritually resonant materials. Within its surface were carved 108 patterns. These 108 patterns should not be underestimated. Each was individually connected to a different part of the entire Jade Court. In a certain sense, this heaven-watching mirror was the very core of the Jade Court. It surveyed and governed the entirety of the Jade Court. To possess this mirror was to hold, at minimum, half the authority over the Jade Court. Within the heaven-watching mirror, everything that had transpired in the Peach Garden was projected faithfully, in full detail. From within the mist of the principal seat, a voice was the first to speak. When she did not speak, no one dared make a sound. "What does everyone think?" At these words, among the many women below, one stepped forward. She wore a long crimson gown, like a brilliant sun newly rising. If one looked carefully, it became apparent that the women in the hall wore 4 distinct styles of dress: the green of spring, the red of summer, the gold of autumn, and the white of winter. The woman who had spoken was named Xia Chongshan. "Queen Mother, this person is far too arrogant. Regardless of whether he is a guest of our Jade Court, he has openly slain disciples of the Jade Court, a crime deserving death." At these words, the hall fell into complete silence. No one else ventured to speak, for none of them could discern the Queen Mother's attitude. Every woman within this hall held a position of great standing in the Jade Court. But it was precisely because of this that, like walking alongside a tiger, they were all careful and cautious, afraid of displeasing Queen Mother. These women were the Queen Mother's personal guard, collectively known as the Four Seasons Valkyries. Every one of them possessed extraordinary strength. Upon hearing Xia Chongshan's words, the Queen Mother fell briefly silent. Then she asked, "Qingcheng, what do you think?" "He is of great benefit to our Jade Court," Yi Qingcheng said directly. She made no mention of what had occurred or how to evaluate it, because that was beside the point. The Jade Court was currently standing against the Azure Mystic Heaven and was in desperate need of strength. So as long as he was useful, that was sufficient. Everything else was unimportant. All under heaven strive for profit. All under heaven move for gain. Everything is decided by interest. Yi Qingcheng saw this with perfect clarity, which was why she cut straight to the point. The casting crane lineage has indeed gone too far. Over these years, not only outsiders but even disciples within our Jade Court have found their behavior disagreeable. The Queen Mother said mildly, "Go and tell Di Shelley that, effective today, his position as Elder of Law Enforcement is stripped." Di Shelley was the Grand Elder of the casting crane lineage. Furthermore, the Queen Mother continued, though she remained hidden behind the mist, a gaze seemed to pierce through it and settle upon Xia Chongshan. "I hear you have developed quite a fondness for 7-colored glazed stones recently." At these words, Xia Chongshan's face changed drastically. She immediately dropped to her knees and said in terror, "Queen Mother, spare my life. I was momentarily bewitched. I accepted gifts from the casting crane lineage. I will not kill you. Leave the heavenly mountain," the Queen Mother said calmly. At these words, Xia Chongshan's face changed completely. Being made to leave the Jade Court was worse than death itself. To be a Four Seasons Valkyrie meant not only exceptional personal strength and access to resources, but also an incomparably noble status. Within the Jade Court, the 18 lineages kept one another in check, maintaining a balance. But outside the Jade Court, the status of the Four Seasons Valkyries was even more exalted, for they did not answer to any of the 18 lineages. They belonged exclusively to the Queen Mother's personal guard. Aside from the Queen Mother herself, no one in the Jade Court had any right to command them. They stood as equals to all. It was precisely because of the unique nature of the Four Seasons Valkyries that the 18 lineages of the Jade Court all sought to court and win them over. This only made their standing all the more privileged. Xia Chongshan did not want to leave, for she could not imagine a future without her identity as a Four Seasons Valkyrie. This was worse than being killed. They took pride in being Four Seasons Valkyries. "Queen Mother, please forgive me just this once. I swear this was the only time I accepted anything. It will never happen again." Xia Chongshan knelt on the floor, tears streaming down her face, pleading desperately. "Please, Queen Mother, punish me however you see fit. I will accept any punishment. Only do not drive me away." Xia Chongshan cut a wretched figure. She had believed it was all done in secret, merely accepting gifts and occasionally speaking up for the casting crane lineage on 1 or 2 matters. Little did she know that everything occurring in the entire Jade Court, indeed, throughout all of Kunlun Mountain, lay within the purview of the Queen Mother's heaven-watching mirror. The Queen Mother showed no mercy. Mercy shown by one in a position of power is the most pitiable thing of all. From within the mist, a pair of jade-like hands seemed to wave gently, and Xia Chongshan's figure was immediately sent flying out. The heavenly island fell into complete silence. The other Four Seasons Valkyries were utterly cowed, every one of them lowering her head, not daring to utter another word. From within the mist, the Queen Mother's powerful voice resounded once more. Hold your position and fulfill your duty. I know the Four Seasons Valkyries are precious, and many will seek to win your favor. But you must also remember one thing. I can bestow this honor upon you, and I can take it away just as readily. If any of you, like her, should one day lose your way, you will end up with nothing. As the Queen Mother's voice fell, every Four Seasons Valkyrie in the hall dropped to her knees at once. We humbly accept the Queen Mother's sacred command. We pledge to place the protection of the Jade Court above all else, and to involve ourselves in no other affairs. Qingcheng. The Queen Mother's voice rang out once more. Yi Qingcheng, seated beside the principal seat in the closest position, turned to face it. Your disciple awaits your instruction, Master, Yi Qingcheng replied. I hear you had some prior acquaintance with this person? The Queen Mother asked. There were a few dealings, yes? Yi Qingcheng nodded. Though not a deep familiarity, merely a single encounter. As you know, very few things can be hidden from me. The Queen Mother's gaze seemed to pierce through the mist and land upon Yi Qingcheng. In truth, we were not very close. He has some connection to someone who once saved my life, Yi Qingcheng replied, unruffled. Do you know how he came to be within the Jade Court? The Queen Mother asked. At present, Kunlun Mountain is sealed. Aside from honored guests invited to the Peach Blossom Banquet, there is only one way to enter the Jade Court. Yi Qingcheng pondered briefly before answering. The Mirage Tides Heaven. In truth, before all this, those from the Azure Mystic Heaven had also been able to reach the Jade Court via transmission formations. However, as tensions between the Azure Mystic Heaven and the Jade Court had grown increasingly strained of late, the transmission formations connecting the two had been severed. Otherwise, imagine, at the height of their conflict, if the Azure Mystic Heaven were to use a formation to teleport an army of demon beasts directly in. That would be catastrophic. Correct, the Mirage Tides Heaven, the Queen Mother replied. A living person who came through the Mirage Tides Heaven. I wonder what the Lord of Death has in mind, or what purpose lies behind all this. In all these years, this is the first living person I have ever seen to emerge from the Mirage Tides Heaven. Is Master instructing me to make contact with him? Yi Qingcheng asked. Ask him what purpose brought him to the Jade Court. Surely he didn't come all this way simply to help us, the Queen Mother said. Understood. Yi Qingcheng rose to her feet, thought for a moment, then asked again. And what of the Casting Crane lineage? He has slain Wang Xie and others. The Casting Crane lineage, and perhaps other lineages, will not let this rest. Take my token with you. A great battle in the Jade Court draws near, and everyone must stand united against the common enemy rather than turn on each other, the Queen Mother said coldly. If there are those who refuse to listen, then discipline them accordingly. Before the battle begins, I will not allow any destabilizing elements to remain. With that, Yi Qingcheng's mind was settled. She rose into the sky and departed from the heavenly island. Within the Peach Garden, with a single slash from Su Zimo, not even a corpse remained of Wang Xie. He had been utterly annihilated. Everyone could feel an ominous pressure bearing down, as if a storm were gathering. The sky itself seemed to be falling. Just as they were all thinking this, movement stirred outside the Peach Garden. A great azure crane let out a long, piercing cry, its sharp sound echoing across the four corners of the Jade Court. That's the heaven-shaking crane, the sacred crane of the Casting Crane lineage, someone called out. The heaven-shaking crane only calls when something major has happened. One cry is a summons to all disciples of the Casting Crane lineage. It seems news of the Peach Garden incident has already reached them. Of course it has. It's been long enough that any disciple could have reported it by now. This is finished. This young man's strength may be peerless among the younger generation, but against the elder generation's powerhouses, I'm afraid he still falls far short. The crowd buzzed with commentary, yet none of them left. They all stayed to watch the spectacle. Wang Yi grabbed Su Zimo's arm, her voice anxious. Run, I'll go find Grandpa Tree. If he appeals on your behalf, there may still be hope. Grandpa Tree was an elder of the plant lineage and, by now, one of the very last remaining senior powerhouses of that lineage. He was also the paternal grandfather of Wang Yi and her younger brother. There's no hurry. Su Zimo waved her off. He raised his gaze to the horizon. Already several figures of tremendous presence could be seen closing in through the air from all directions. It was evident that the casting crane lineage held a truly lofty position within the Jade Court. It had rather the feeling of a single flaming arrow bringing 1,000 troops galloping to the call. If we don't leave now, it really will be too late, Wang Yi said urgently. I've done what I've done, and I never intended to run. Besides, now that I'm here, I might as well fight my way through. There's a path in every direction, Su Zimo said. His thinking was straightforward. If he kept fighting, he might very well end up face to face with Queen Mother herself. He did not believe that at this critical juncture, the Jade Court would truly dare to go to open war with him. That's Qin Guan of the treasure lineage, he's come too, someone called out at that moment, looking toward the edge of the peach garden. A treasure warship descended from the heavens. Once it drew close to the airspace above the peach garden, it shrank to several times smaller than before, the size of a palm, and returned to the hand of a young man. The young man wore a pale black robe, his brow carrying a certain overbearing air. His robes were inscribed with flowing Tao script. With each step he descended, the sounds of the great Tao echoed beneath his feet. This young man was none other than Qin Guan of the treasure lineage, and also the one who pursued Zhao Qiui. Long ago, Zhao Qiui had attracted a great many admirers, but from the moment Qin Guan appeared, no one else had dared to court her. The treasure lineage was one of the 18 lineages. At its peak of prosperity, it surpassed even the casting crane lineage. It could be said that, with the exception of the immortal lineage where the Queen Mother herself resided, the treasure lineage stood above all others. As the saint son of the treasure lineage, Qin Guan's identity and strength were beyond question. It was said that more than a decade ago, Qin Guan had once, on his own, challenged the disciples of all the other 17 lineages combined, and emerged undefeated except for a single loss at the hands of Yi Qingqing. At first he had pursued Yi Qingqing, but she was far too aloof, cold to everyone without exception. After years of effort, Qin Guan had given up entirely. Now he had set his sights on Zhao Qiui. Hearing that Zhao Qiui's peaches had been taken from her by another disciple, of course he had to show up. And he was confident that within this Jade Court, few disciples would dare refuse him face. When Qin Guan arrived, the onlooking disciples grew even more excited. To offend both the casting crane lineage and the treasure lineage at the same time, the two most powerful lineages in the Jade Court, that was something that would be too much for anyone. As Qin Guan descended from the sky, his arrival was every bit as grand as the name of his lineage. Like its name, the treasure lineage was the place in all of the Jade Court with the greatest abundance of treasures. One could say that the treasure lineage was renowned for forging treasures. Nearly all of the Jade Court's prized artifacts were made by their hands. Because of this, the disciples of the treasure lineage were exceptionally wealthy. To step out the door without several treasures on one's person was considered shameful. Moreover, while the combat power of treasure lineage disciples themselves was not particularly remarkable, the treasures they forged were second to none among even the strongest cultivators. As the saint son of the treasure lineage, the treasures Qin Guan carried went without saying. First, consider his robes. He wore the five-element Qilin robe. This garment had been bathed in Qilin bloodline power and tempered with the forces of the five elements, then layered over with the scales of a black flood dragon. Its defensive power was staggering. Breaking through it was no easy task. In his hand, Qin Guan also carried a white jade flute. This instrument was no ordinary object. It had been forged from the demon cores of 18 void-dwelling demon beasts. The forging process was even more intricate. It had not been shaped with flames and hammer, but condensed through the resonance of sound, coalesced note by note. When this flute was played, 10,000 sounds rang out together, shaking the god soul and slaying enemies without leaving a trace. Greetings, senior brother Qin of the treasure lineage. Several disciples rushed to offer their respects as Qin Guan arrived. I heard someone seized Choi's peaches. I've come to take a look, Qin Guan said mildly. His hands clasped behind his back. His gaze swept over every face present as he spoke. He smiled slightly and said, "Quite a lively scene here. Who took the peaches? Step forward." As he spoke, his voice was full and resonant, and his gaze had come to rest steadily on Su Zimo. In truth, someone had given him a description of Su Zimo on the way over. "Qin Guan, this is my affair. It has nothing to do with you." Zhao Chui's expression was cold. She said only that much. In truth, she held no feelings for Qin Guan whatsoever. She had simply stayed silent about his advances out of deference to the treasure lineage's standing, neither encouraging him nor driving him away. But he seemed to be growing increasingly presumptuous, going further and further, which now forced Zhao Chui to speak plainly. Otherwise, even if nothing had actually happened between them, once the disciples of the entire Jade Court started gossiping, who knew what stories they might conjure. "Chui, don't worry, I'll handle this for you." Qin Guan turned toward her and said gently, "I said, this is my affair. It has nothing to do with you." Zhao Chui's expression had turned decidedly cold. Qin Guan smiled and replied, "All right, consider it unrelated to you. Just say it's a private matter between me and this young man. Surely that's acceptable." "You had better stay out of it," she said. Since he put it that way, there was nothing more Zhao Chui could do. She could hardly physically stop him. Qin Guan smiled again, then turned to look at Su Zimo. "Where did you come from, reckless boy, to dare cause such trouble in our Jade Court?" "Another one who wants to die," Su Zimo said with a cold laugh. He raised Shadow Tyrant toward Qin Guan and said, "You people of the Jade Court keep coming one by one to throw your lives away. How tedious. You might as well call everyone at once. I'll kill them all together and save us all the trouble." "Killing you doesn't even require me to take the field," Qin Guan said, reaching into his pocket and producing a coiling lock shaped like a dragon. He sneered. "This coiling dragon lock alone is more than enough to end you." The moment the coiling dragon lock appeared, a draconic might burst forth from within it. Dragon roars rang out in succession. Clearly this was no ordinary object. "It's an imperial supreme treasure, a match for a saint sovereign," one disciple exclaimed upon seeing the coiling dragon lock. Senior brother Qin Guan forged this himself, using the bones of 22,000-year flood dragons. With supreme treasurecraft techniques and auxiliary materials, he forcibly transmuted the flood dragons into true dragons. Senior brother Qin Guan. Just as Qin Guan was about to make his move, an aged voice called from not far away. Powerhouses from the casting crane lineage had arrived from the distance. "Elder Wushu." Qin Guan turned around, slightly furrowing his brow. "What is it?" Elder Wushu was one of the casting crane lineage's most respected elders, so Qin Guan did show him some deference. "This villain is ruthless. He has already slain too many of our casting crane lineage's disciples. Why don't we join forces to cut him down?" Elder Wushu suggested. "There is no need. Why use a great blade to slaughter a chicken? This single coiling dragon lock is more than sufficient," Qin Guan said confidently. He wanted to make a show of himself in front of Zhao Chui. How could he allow anyone else to interfere? Elder Wushu didn't mind. He simply smiled and said, "Since young brother Qin has such resolve, then I shall stand to one side and lend my presence to bolster your position." Qin Guan nodded. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Su Zimo, saying calmly, "If you surrender now, I will spare your life. Once I make my move, you will die without question." "Not much strength, but quite a big mouth," Su Zimo said slowly, raising his right hand. Shadow Tyrant erupted with an ancient primordial blade intent. With a single slash, he cut directly toward Qin Guan. I've already grown tired of listening to your drivel. Qin Guan's eyes narrowed slightly. A golden light flashed from his pupils and fell upon the coiling dragon lock. In an instant, the coiled dragon seemed to be activated. The entire dragon came alive. In a flash of golden brilliance, the coiling dragon lock soared into the sky, transforming into a massive dragon. With dragon roars reverberating through the air, the creature opened its enormous maw and lunged towards Su Zimo. This powerful body collided with Su Zimo's blade intent. The blade intent was razor-sharp, cleaving the dragon in two. But what was astonishing was that even split in half, the dragon did not die. The upper half came lunging at Su Zimo again, its open jaws snapping toward his head. This treasurecraft technique is actually rather interesting, Su Zimo said with a smile. This treasurecraft technique transformed dead matter into living matter, yet preserved the properties of an inanimate object. Though the coiling dragon had been split in two, its great jaws still snapped toward Su Zimo, and its remaining two dragon claws swept forward. Su Zimo raised his head and brought Shadow Tyrant up in front of him. Boom! The two dragon claws came crashing down upon Shadow Tyrant, and the collision of those iron-hard claws against the blade sent sparks flying in all directions. Crash, 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 the impacts rang out without pause. The dragon claws pinned down Shadow Tyrant as the dragon's head drove straight for Su Zimo. In Su Zimo's eyes, a demonic light flashed. He let out a fierce roar. Get out of the way! Golden blade light exploded from Shadow Tyrant like the detonation of a great sun, shattering the coiling dragon into scattered pieces. This time, the coiling dragon fell silent completely. The coiling dragon lock reverted to its original form and clattered to the ground. Qin Guan's eyes narrowed. That was just a coiling dragon lock. Things like that, I don't have 10,000 of them, but I have 8,000. Whatever power you have, use it. Otherwise the next slash cuts off your worthless head, Su Zimo said mildly. You just wait, Qin Guan said through gritted teeth. He reached into his robes and produced a black sphere. The sphere was roughly the size of a palm, and tendrils of dark, sinister power swirled around it. Darkness covered everything, lending it an especially eerie, bone-chilling air. The dark orb, one form of the dark cage technique, a disciple said. That's one of Senior Brother Qin's most prized treasures. The dark cage can ignore all rules and directly imprison an entire region of space. No matter how the target struggles, they will be trapped inside, unable to move a muscle. Hearing the murmurs around him, Qin Guan's lips curved into a faint smile. In truth, he could not have refined the dark orb by himself alone. It had taken the assistance of his master at the treasure lineage to complete it. This treasure, never mind a saint sovereign, even an infinite Tao powerhouse, if their command of the rules fell short of his master's, would be unable to escape from the dark cage. Qin Guan threw out the dark orb. In an instant, the orb swelled to enormous size, its power surging like a mountain pressing down upon the sea. The dark power of the rules condensed into a river of rules that completely engulfed the space around Su Zimo. A fusion of the Dark Edict and the Space-Time Edict, Su Zimo said, unperturbed, instead studying it with quiet attention. The Dark Edict was like a quagmire, dragging one down until escape was impossible. The Space-Time Edict sketched the boundaries of heaven and earth. Together they formed a cage from which there was no release. This was rule fusion. In truth, at the level of infinite Tao, mastery over a single rule was only the bare foundation. Those who had comprehended multiple rules could attempt to fuse them in combat, multiplying their power several-fold. To achieve this level of fusion through treasurecraft alone was quite impressive. Feeling the enveloping Dark Edict, Su Zimo smiled lightly and said, Your cage can trap a basic infinite Tao powerhouse, but it is useless against me, because I am the king of edicts. In an instant, an even more overwhelming force of rules erupted from Su Zimo's body. Power roared upward like a flood tide breaking its banks. The cage that had seemed capable of imprisoning everything shattered apart, swept away by a tide that was no ordinary flood. It was countless rules twisted and compressed together. Within it were, naturally, the Dark Edict and the Spacetime Edict, as well as innumerable others beyond count. Just as Su Zimo had said, at this moment he stood as the true king of edicts. 10,000 edicts flowed around him. What is this Qin Guan? Facing him was stunned. He felt the dark orb slip from his control. The treasure shredded to nothing in an instant. His eyes widened in shock. Sensing the power radiating from Su Zimo, his face went white. You are Infinite Tao? Infinite Tao Realm. It was understandable. Su Zimo's strength had always been far ahead of those his age. The saint sons and saintess of the various lineages, like Qin Guan, were at most at the level of Saint Sovereign. In all of the Jade Court, only Yi Qingcheng had recently broken through to the Infinite Tao Realm. And Yi Qingcheng was the saintess of the entire Jade Court. She had been cultivated with almost all of the Jade Court's resources poured into her. Su Zimo, meanwhile, had walked this path alone, carving his way through by his own efforts. Kill! Su Zimo commanded the 10,000 edicts and, with a casual wave of his hand, released an infinite cascade of edicts downward. Crash, crash, crash. Unstoppable edicts annihilated everything in their path. Qin Guan's face changed drastically. In this moment, he threw all caution to the wind and hurled out every treasure he possessed. A flowing water barrier condensed into a deep sea that swept across the sky. An ancient tree seed fell to the ground, drank deep of spirit energy, and erupted into a towering ancient tree. Flying swords unfolded 10,000 techniques, 10,000 swords returning to their origin. A single blade cleaving open the gates of heaven. And an ancient suit of armor appeared, vast as a giant, black smoke swirling around it as it stood between heaven and earth. A dazzling assortment of treasures filled the air, enough to dazzle the eyes. Truly, Qin Guan was not unworthy of being the saint son of the treasure lineage. The sheer number of treasures he possessed was staggering. Not enough. Still not enough. Even with so many treasures deployed, Qin Guan still felt that things were not secure, and he muttered under his breath. Su Zimo let out a cold snort. When his tide of rules came crashing down, everything before it seemed small and utterly unable to resist. The flowing water was consumed, the ancient tree was severed, the 10,000 sword display was annihilated. Everything and anything, all of it was fragile beyond measure. Save me! Someone save me! Qin Guan screamed like a man gone mad. The onlookers exchanged glances. One by one, they looked at each other and backed away. Not a single person dared to step forward. Even Elder Wushu of the Casting Crane lineage stepped back several paces. For he could feel it, Su Zimo was not merely a common infinite Tao cultivator. His mastery and command of the edicts surpassed even his own. This is quite a thorny situation, Elder Wushu murmured to himself. The tide crashed down. Amid Qin Guan's horrified screams, he was swallowed completely. The five-element Qilin robe he wore managed to hold for a few seconds, then collapsed. Who has dared to harm my disciple? At the same moment, a voice erupted with fury from the northwest. That was the treasure lineage's territory. In the instant Qin Guan had died and his soul lamp extinguished, the powerhouses of the treasure lineage had sensed it. Towering flames rose into the sky. Far to the northwest, the earth shook. A phoenix of pure crimson, blazing from head to tail, came soaring over from the distance. If one looked closely, one would see that 3 elderly figures were seated upon the back of the fire phoenix. It's the 3 treasure elders of the treasure lineage, a disciple cried out. The eldest of the 3 treasure elders was none other than the current head of the treasure lineage itself, the one who held authority over the treasure lineage. Now that their own saint son had died within the Jade Court, the powerhouses of the treasure lineage had been alerted in the very first instant. Meanwhile, Elder Wushu thought it over and secretly sent word to the powerhouses of the Casting Crane lineage. He feared that he alone would not be able to handle what was coming. This situation has blown up, a disciple murmured. For this was no longer a small skirmish between members of the younger generation. With powerhouses of the various lineages now emerging, and a saint son slain, this was going to be very difficult to resolve. Wang Ye and her younger brother were so frightened they had gone completely blank. Su Zimo, however, was perfectly calm. He stood in silence, watching the fire phoenix in the northwest. When the fire phoenix spread its wings and descended, the crowd realized it was not a true phoenix at all. It too was a product of treasurecraft. This fire phoenix was called the three-flavor true fire phoenix. One should not underestimate it. It was said that the treasure lineage had once come across the corpse of a deceased true phoenix. Using the bones of that true phoenix as a foundation, they had forged the fire phoenix now before them. Its true power was enough to rival an infinite Dao powerhouse, and even infinite Dao cultivators would not lightly dare to face the three-flavor true fire. As the fire phoenix descended with blazing three-flavor true fire roaring in every direction, the entire sky above the peach garden was engulfed in a canopy of flame clouds. As if sensing the danger, the peach trees seemed ready to sprout 8 legs each and fled the peach garden as fast as they could go. Even the Earth Core Mother Lightning peach tree transformed into a streak of light and plunged underground, vanishing from sight. All of this carried the feeling of a great storm about to break, dark clouds pressing against the city walls until they seemed ready to crumble. The fire phoenix locked onto Su Zimo the instant it arrived and, without a word, exhaled a torrent of three-flavor true fire directly at him. "Nothing but a dead beast, and it dares to be arrogant before me," Su Zimo said with a cold snort. The creation-devouring heaven finger swallowed heaven and earth as it surged forward, annihilating the flames and bearing down upon the fire phoenix. Boom! The sea of fire was extinguished. The finger pierced straight through the fire phoenix's head. The fire phoenix let out a continuous wail of agony. The creature forged through treasurecraft had already developed a spirit of its own. "Quite capable," said the third of the 3 treasure elders, whose name was the Many Treasure Elder. The second was the Earth Treasure Elder. As for the eldest, the one who held authority over the treasure lineage, his name was the Heavenly Treasure Elder. The 3 of them each had a different area of focus in their treasurecraft. The third, Many Treasure Elder, was true to his name. He carried an uncountable number of treasures on his person. It was said he had forged over 100,000 treasures throughout his life, and he was generous with his disciples, casually bestowing treasures as rewards. His individual pieces might not be the finest, but his strength lay in overwhelming quantity, a strategy of sheer treasure abundance. The Earth Treasure Elder's specialty was crafting treasures oriented toward speed. His entire life had been dedicated to the earth. It was said he had once walked every inch of the boundless land and sea surrounding the Jade Court on foot. One should not underestimate the Jade Court. While it could not compare to the Azure Mystic Heaven or the Mirage Tides Heaven, the territory where Kunlun Mountain stood was still vast beyond measure. Some cultivators might spend an entire lifetime and still fail to walk a full circuit around Kunlun Mountain. Yet the Earth Treasure Elder had done it without once lifting into the air or riding any vehicle, walking like an ordinary mortal, measuring the earth with his own feet. Every inch and every mile of the Jade Court existed somewhere between the soles of the Earth Treasure Elder's feet. It was said that in terms of speed, the treasures crafted by the Earth Treasure Elder were unmatched, first in all the world. As for the Heavenly Treasure Elder, his entire life had been devoted to studying the killing arts of the space-time purgatory. He believed that space-time was the most powerful rule in existence, bar none. Time and space intertwined to form the world itself. On the defensive, it could imprison the void. On the offensive, it could grind everything to nothing. All the treasures forged by the Heavenly Treasure Elder were therefore bound to the rules of space and time. At this moment the 3 of them exchanged a glance, their eyes blazing with rage as they fixed their gaze on Su Zimo. "Regardless of your origins, you have slain the saint son of our treasure lineage. Today you will die without question." "I'm starting to grow tired of hearing the word die," Su Zimo said with a cold laugh. "It's a pity that those who speak it most confidently always end up as corpses at my feet." "Enough of your clever tongue." The Many Treasure Elder snorted first. He casually tossed out 5 spheres of light. Instantly, a surging bestial might erupted through the world. Amid roar after roar, 5 enormous demon beasts burst forth from within the 5 orbs of light. They were the demon dragon, the white tiger, the demon phoenix, the netherworld tortoise, and the blood qilin. These demon beasts appeared vividly lifelike, as though they were real creatures, rather than crafted constructs. "Those are the many treasure elders' 5 beast guardians," one disciple said. "Each of the 5 beast guardians possesses the power to contend with an ordinary infinite Tao cultivator. When all 5 join forces, it is said they can slay any powerhouse below the 3 blossom stage." Hearing this, the crowd understood. The many treasure elder might speak dismissively of Su Zimo, but in action he was exceedingly cautious. He had opened with one of his trump cards from the very first move. The 5 beast guardians were immense, and their combined forms blotted out the sky the moment they appeared. 5 ferocious beasts radiating different auras circled overhead, each a different color, some crimson, some blazing white, some the dark of night. All 5 trained their gaze upon Su Zimo, sending a chill down the spines of those watching. "Kill!" the many treasure elder ordered. In an instant all 5 beasts lunged forward. The demon dragon and the white tiger flanked from left and right, a heaven-piercing baleful energy and a blinding white light erupting simultaneously. Before the overwhelming might of those two, heaven and earth seemed cleaved in two, one half swallowed in the black of murderous energy, the other illuminated by blinding white. The 2 beasts became twin torrents, fast as lightning. Su Zimo was unhurried. He raised Shadow Tyrant to block, merely testing the waters. Boom! A tremendous force crashed into him, numbing his palms and forcing him back several paces. The 2 beasts pressed their advantage, hammering Su Zimo from both sides without pause. Crash, crash, crash. Su Zimo's gaze sharpened like a blade, a flash of blade light seeming to pass through his eyes. He steadied his footing and delivered 2 sweeping horizontal slashes, blade light cleaving heaven and earth, blade intent thundering through the sky, and sent both beasts flying. Facing him, the many treasure elder frowned slightly and barked. "Form the formation." At his word, the remaining 3 beasts joined the fray. Aligned according to the 5 directions, the 5 beast guardians encircled Su Zimo completely. The demon dragon roared with fury, the white tiger raged with savagery, the demon phoenix ran wild, the netherworld tortoise radiated deathly silence, and the blood qilin burned with bloodlust. These were 5 beasts of the most extreme natures. As their varied powers intertwined, the 5 beasts began to merge into a single entity. Tremendous power surged and churned without stop. The beasts' cries rang out one after another. Within the storm of energy, the colossal form of all 5 beasts fused together gradually took shape. The demon dragon became its arms, the blood qilin its legs, the netherworld tortoise its torso, the white tiger its head, and the demon phoenix its tail. This massive creature combined the traits of all 5 beasts. It fixed its gaze upon Su Zimo and let out a sudden, earth-shaking roar. The sound gathered like a converging storm and instantly condensed into a sonic shockwave that surged toward Su Zimo. "Out of the way," Su Zimo said. His footwork shifted, the technique of a single step spanning countless distances, and he appeared at the monster's back in an instant, as though he had slipped through the ground like a bolt of golden light. He brought one slash cutting down toward it. But the monster was no easy opponent. At its tail, the demon phoenix's flames exploded outward without warning, engulfing Su Zimo in a cocoon of fire. "Dead things, trying to throw your weight around before me." Su Zimo's cold snort pierced through the flames. Shadow Tyrant drove straight into the tail. With brute force, he severed the tail that had been formed by the demon phoenix. The monster howled in pain. It spun around and opened both arms wide, seizing Su Zimo in a crushing embrace, intending to choke the life out of him. "It's got him!" The onlookers' faces lit up with excitement. The many treasure elder turned to the heavenly treasure elder and gave a slight nod. The heavenly treasure elder raised his right hand. Immediately a leviathan descended from the heavens. This leviathan was a secret treasure he had forged. What the leviathan excelled at above all else was the space-time purgatory killing technique. The space-time purgatory technique drew upon the power of space-time as its source of destruction, supplemented by other rules, and the combined force it produced was formidable. At this moment, the Leviathan was in exactly that state. Its tremendous power shot straight into the heavens, hovering and circling constantly around Suzimo. Gradually, the force of space-time condensed into raging spatial currents, howling through the air like a gale. Dense layers of chaotic currents closed in from every direction, engulfing Suzimo within. The monstrous amalgamation formed by the many Treasure Elders' 5 beast guardians instantly released its hold and slipped away into the void. Then the heavenly Treasure Elders' low shout rang out. Grind! The vast expanse of void where Suzimo stood instantly collapsed into nothingness. The power of that grinding force was immense. Even an infinite Tao powerhouse could be torn apart within it. Is it over? Many disciples murmured. He must be dead. The 3 Treasure Elders have made their move. If he still won't die, wouldn't that be humiliating for them? Another disciple ventured tentatively. But his words had barely fallen before it seemed those words were destined to come back on him. Boom! An explosion rang out from the far side of the collapsed void. The crowd started and spun around, only to see Suzimo raising his blade and charging toward the many Treasure Elders monster. He's not dead, someone cried out. How is that possible? The Leviathan's space-time purgatory is one of a kind. How could he have survived? Did he use some sorcery? A disciple said in disbelief. But there he was, plain for all to see. Suzimo had appeared completely unharmed at some point, and his blade was already sweeping down toward the monster. This time there was not a shred of hesitation. He held nothing back. The blade intent shook the heavens. The blade light rolled forward like the surging tides of a boundless ocean, wave upon wave, endlessly renewed. Crash, crash, crash. As the slash fell, the monster reflexively raised both arms to block. Those arms were formed from the demon dragon. Dragon roars rang out. Demonic energy surged. But Suzimo's blade was more overbearing still. So what if it's a dragon? In this lifetime I have slain more dragons than I can count. Boom! Both of the demon dragon's arms were cleanly severed. The monster howled in agony. Suzimo did not relent. Another slash came immediately, aimed at the monster's legs. Its legs were formed from the blood qilin. The veins threading through them resembled a river of blood. One leg swung out at Suzimo in a kick, and the surge of gore that came rushing toward him was like a great river crashing against a dam. Boom! My blade opens the gates of heaven, cuts through the 9 underworlds, slays 10,000 immortals, and extinguishes the great sun. Slash upon slash cleaves heaven. Nothing can stand against it. The slash fell, sweeping all before it. The dam burst. The blood qilin's legs were severed. Suzimo spun around and brought another slash on the backswing. The white tiger's head, which formed the monster's skull, was roaring with fury. But that fury was helpless. The slash took the head off as well. One final slash, aimed at the torso, formed from the Netherworld Tortoise. The Netherworld Tortoise's defense was the strongest of all. Even under Suzimo's blade, it held for a brief moment. But as blade light erupted toward the sky and sparks rained down, one slash tore through it from top to bottom, splitting the Netherworld Tortoise in 2. Standing over a heap of broken metal and ruin, Suzimo turned, blade in hand, to face the crowd. In that moment, the entire Peach Garden fell utterly silent. Only the many Treasure Elder remained, his extended right hand trembling. The 5 Beast Guardians had consumed an immeasurable amount of his effort to create, and now they had been destroyed just like that. Felt as though his very heart was bleeding. Despicable wretch, he bellowed. Many Treasure Elder, our casting crane lineage comes to your aid. A voice called out from not far away. Elder Wushu, who had retreated earlier, had returned. This time he was accompanied by an old man. The old man had the white hair of the elderly and the complexion of a youth, with a white beard as pale as snow. His skin was smooth and clear, and he wore a plain gray Dao robe. His eyes were sharp and bright, and he carried a white jade horsetail whisk. The moment this elder arrived, the countless disciples present dropped to their knees as one. Greetings, White Crane Patriarch. Even the 3 treasure elders offered their respects. This was a sight to leave one speechless. The heavenly treasure elder, as the head of the treasure lineage, held a standing second only to Queen Mother herself, the supreme ruler of the Jade Court. The head of a lineage was the pinnacle of that lineage. Yet, in the presence of this old man, even he deferred as a junior. This is bad. Wang Ye and her brother exchanged a glance, their faces shifting. She leaned close to Su Zimo and whispered urgently, "Brother Su, run. They've gone too far," calling in even the old monster of the casting crane lineage. Old monster? Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. The man did put some pressure on him, real pressure. For above the old man's head, barely perceptible, 3 flowers were gathering, condensing like clouds, rising and falling, ethereal and transcendent, with the bearing of a heavenly immortal. Amid those 3 flowers, a crane could be vaguely seen, as though dozing. None of this was openly displayed, yet it made clear. The old man before him had reached the 3-flower realm. It should be known that while Su Zimo had already bloomed 2 flowers, he had not yet left the bounds of the infinite Tao realm. Without reaching 3 blossoms, the God Soul cannot be cultivated. In other words, even at the peak of infinite Tao, one still cannot refine the God Soul. This old man's God Soul had already undergone one full transformation. Who is this person? Hearing Su Zimo's question, Wang Ye lowered her voice urgently. The founding patriarch of the casting crane lineage. His title is the Immortal Elder. Sitting serenely as the azure dragon returns to the purple zenith, joyfully riding the white crane down from Kunlun. This immortal elder belongs to the same era as the myriad Saint Lord of our plant lineage. The immortal elder had 3 disciples in his time, and one of them is the White Crane Patriarch. Hearing this, Su Zimo already had a general understanding. The White Crane Patriarch's age spoke for itself. Whether in terms of strength or seniority, he likely surpassed the vast majority of people in the Jade Court. The White Crane Patriarch was among the oldest generation of the casting crane lineage. All of you rise. The White Crane Patriarch raised one hand. His gaze settled upon Su Zimo. He said mildly, "Young man, you have spilled too much blood. What, are you here to convert me?" Su Zimo smiled. "I will not harm you. The Jade Court has its rules, matters will be handled as they should be," the White Crane Patriarch said. "But if you resist, that changes everything. I trust you are a man of intelligence. I am a man of intelligence. It's a pity that all of you seem to be fools," Su Zimo replied. "Then there is nothing more to say." The White Crane Patriarch raised his hand. A tremendous aura surged forward like a tempest, washing over everyone present. Every face in the crowd shifted. The might of a 3-flower powerhouse was truly something that moved the heart. "White Crane Patriarch, this is all a misunderstanding," Wang Ye called out from beside him, but her words were cut off immediately. "You are a disciple of the Jade Court, yet you stand with an outsider. The Jade Court will punish you for this. Stand aside now. Otherwise, do not blame us for showing no mercy." Wang Ye shook her head. She stepped forward and planted herself firmly in front of Su Zimo, refusing to budge. The White Crane Patriarch let out a cold snort, without a shred of compassion, and sent a massive palm strike crashing toward her. At precisely that moment, from the ground where Wang Ye stood, a great tree sprouted without warning.